We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
What's Pro Football Focus doing? Last week they had Brady. This week they got Brady.
We're literally doing it differently from everybody else.
As a matter of fact, moving forward from this point on, I will not make reference to PFF.
Do you not understand that they are that way because you're Joe Flacco?
And you just like to discredit things that people deserve credit for.
That you can't possibly be expected to defend that.
Talk about the game, Sam. So who cares about what people think about us?
Yeah, I like football, I like football season, all the things that go with it.
Welcome into the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo here with Sam Monson, and we are here to review all of the Week 16 action, of course, except Monday Night Football, because it hasn't happened yet. Sam, how you doing?
Good. You?
Great. Did you have a good Christmas?
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's get out of there. Let's get into this here.
You want to get this done quickly because you gotta hit the road.
I got a minivan to get into for the next 16 hours.
Yes.
Yes.
What'd you cook for Christmas? That's the big thing. What'd you get?
My wife
You
cooked. She made like a baked macaroni thing. It's kind of like a lazy man's lasagna, mom's recipe, but like with my mom's sauce and all that stuff. We call it gravy in Sicily. So what? It was good. She did a good job of replicating. And I made Christmas Eve. We made a pot roast and a ham and things like that. It was good. What'd you make? I know what you were trying to get to.
There was no like actual meat involved in this?
Oh, meatballs. Meatballs in there too. It's an Italian meal.
Huh. There's no roast dead thing.
No, because there wasn't many people. We just had a couple friends over, so.
Okay.
Meatballs. It was an Italian thing.
All right.
Christmas Eve we had the meats.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you got a ham.
Pot roast. The roast was really good. With Jeff Ruby's seasoning.
Nice.
It was really good. All right, explain what you had really quick. Go ahead.
A turducken in honor of John Madden. You know, the Madden documentary on Fox, which I actually haven't watched yet. But yeah, in honor of John Madden, the turducken, which is what, a chicken stuffed inside a duck, stuffed inside a turkey, or something, or
with a lot of legs
in some order. No. They only leave the legs of the turkey because the other ones have got to get deboned and shoved inside of it.
All I know is those Thanksgiving games.
They did have a lot of
six
legs.
leg.
Yeah, I don't think that's
concoction.
how the thing is usually supposed to come. I think they had created a mutant version specifically for Madden. The problem I had is that I only vaguely paid attention to the specifications when I was ordering it. It was like, look, it's a Madden turducken. Let's get one of those. There's family coming over. We'll be good. It was 17 pounds, and there was 6 of us.
Yeah, I'm over here we didn't make a big meat because we only had a couple people.
Right. We only had 6 people, but I had 17 pounds worth of turducken.
Yeah, so that makes sense. You might have a little left over.
I have a lot left over, and we'll have a lot left over for some substantial time.
I'll stop by your house on the way.
Perfect.
And we'll grab some leftovers for the drive.
Yeah.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Good.
I almost didn't get it defrosted in time. When I threw it on the grill and put in the meat probe, it read 31 degrees.
That's the worst.
I was like, oh, this could take some time.
Yeah. The defrosting process is always stressful.
Well, we got it done. It was nice.
That's good. Well, we hope everybody had a great Christmas out there. And we're back, baby. We're back to recap all the games that were. We do have to rewind to Thursday Night Football a little bit.
God,
so that was
a Thursday game.
That was back on December 23rd.
Wow.
The Tennessee Titans defeated.
A week and a half ago.
It was a fun game. Tennessee Titans, San Francisco 49ers, 20-17. The Titans win again. They keep finding a way to win, other than the time they found a way to lose last week against the Steelers.
Which, by the way, is if they got that game back, they'd have an inside track for the number 1 seed.
Yes. The Titans fumbling 3 times in 9 plays. 10 plays, sorry. Only 30% of plays, not 33%.
Give them some credit.
The Titans fumbling 3 times in 10 plays. One of the biggest sequences of the entire season. That was against the Steelers last week because the Titans win this game. They move to 10-5. They're that close to being 11-4 and having the tiebreaker over the Kansas City Chiefs for the number 1 seed. Either way, Titans win. They win a tough game, and it was, the A.J. Brown show. He comes back from injury, 145 of Ryan Tannehill's 209 passing yards. All go to A.J. Brown, the missing piece of the Tennessee Titans offense.
Well, nothing will make you appreciate A.J. Brown if you're Ryan Tannehill, like not having him for a while.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe I wasn't using him to his fullest extent beforehand, but having tried to get by with, Anthony Ferkser and Nick Westbrook-Akine, all of a sudden, yes, we're going to fire the ball every single play in the direction of A.J. Brown. So Brown had 16 targets in this game. Nobody else for the Titans had more than 3.
Yeah.
Which is probably the way it should be, to be honest.
They were the most top-heavy receiver group in the NFL coming into the year.
Tannehill's just out here, all I need is one dude back. Just one.
It'd be cool if Julio Jones was not a shell of himself. He's been dealing with a hamstring and clearly not the same guy. He only had the 1 target, 7 yards. If Julio could get healthy for the playoffs, and that was always one of the risks of the Julio Jones investment.
They should shut him down.
But yeah, if he could get healthy for the playoffs, the Titans are dangerous. But it was a good back and forth game. It was also one of those games, as I tweeted out, with the Jimmy Garoppolo experience. He was cooking early and spreading the ball around and hitting open receivers, doing a really nice job, and then throws an end zone interception, and then other turnover-worthy plays in there too. 2 total interceptions for Jimmy G. But just when it's Jimmy G, he's a little underrated, right? He's been really good since week 6 or 7. He's been really. Oh no, he threw an interception. It's like the full Jimmy G experience, where once you start to feel pretty good about him, there's some bad decisions in there.
Well, this is the game that he can't have. If you're going to be Jimmy G and you're going to be the driving force, the facilitator with this offense, right? You got all these crazy weapons, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk had some big plays. You've got so many of these incredible weapons, this great offense by Kyle Shanahan. You're the guy that can steer the ship and not screw it up. The one thing he can't do is just start heaving the ball to the opposition. And he got on this run of no bad games at all since they sort of threatened his job, Well, I guess he's our starter going. And then he went on this run. It's like, oh, look, remember Jimmy G was good enough for this team to get to a Super Bowl, and if he just doesn't mess it up, they're dangerous. Then he has a game like this. And it's like you can't have one of those. If you're going to be Jimmy G and you are going to be the quarterback and you're going to stave off the Trey Lance threat of your job, you can't do this, because one of those in the playoffs and you're done. You're out. You're game over. So, look, the good news is he got it out of the way before the playoffs, but the bad news is it cost them a game.
Yeah, in a game where you still had Deebo Samuel going off as a receiver. Deebo is as #fun to watch as anybody in the NFL. Taking a handoff from the backfield, you just don't see anybody who could take a handoff from the backfield efficiently, right, and do it well. And then the next play is outside running a dig route and getting open, right? You just don't see that combination. So Deebo has another huge game. But yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo finishes with a 56 grade. He had been, since week 8, nothing below 66, all green or blue in the PFF grading system. And this was his first time back in the orange after he had a stretch of 3 straight games like this, weeks 3, 4, and 7. Comes back with his poorest outing since week 7 here in the River Rain game against the Colts. So, by the way, all those grades and stats over at PFF.com. We still elite upping? We still have elite up?
I believe so.
Yeah, we got to check the doc just to see it. So
and this one obviously is already there because it happened like a week and a half ago.
It is. So the 2 ways you can get access to all the grades and stats, of course, NFL Pod is your 25% off promo code of any PFF subscription. And right now, our special Christmas gift, which is still going, Elite Up. That's 50% off the entire year for PFF Elite. Elite Up for 50% off.
Various housekeeping items, by the way, quickly. Email us, generally, always. We like hearing from you. Email us at NFLpodcast, singular, at PFF.com. We want all kinds of stuff, ideas, stories, stuff we can do on our Wednesday show. Also, look, I created a T-shirt.
Yeah, that looks great.
Podcast.
I didn't acknowledge it, but it looks good.
Yeah. Look, Tailgate are selling things with like tailgate written on them. It seems to me that if somebody is willing to buy something with tailgate written on them, they might be willing to buy an NFL podcast T-shirt. So let us know if you like those as well, and we will offer them for sale.
So it's just to let us know right
so.
now. Hashtag let us know. Yeah, and then we'll.
Maybe nobody wants them. Maybe everyone will look at it and go, "No, your T-shirt sucks. I don't."
Yeah,
want
I don't want your face on a shirt, right? But we
maybe
might.
they will.
Yeah, my mom.
Hey, see, look,
mom might
there's our
want
email.
one. Mom and my dad would definitely rock one.
Yeah, but look,
He's watching.
I'm
right
not
now.
sure that's the marketplace we're looking for.
You don't want my dad to buy a shirt?
No, it's fine. I'm just saying that I doubt that sustains the entire enterprise.
No, we need more people than just my dad buying PFF NFL Pod T-shirts.
Yeah.
So yeah, let us know if you like those. Anyway, Tennessee, currently the number 2 seed in the AFC, and man, they are going to think about that heartbreak because they have the Dolphins. I had it right here. Dolphins and Texans remaining. Not that the Texans are any pushover, but Tennessee's got they had a golden opportunity to get that number 1 seed. Niners still in the playoff picture in the NFC though. Mm-hmm. They're still in the mix at number 6. So 8-7, tied with the Philadelphia Eagles record-wise. Let's go to the Christmas Day games, starting with the Packers and the Browns. Packers win 24-22. They do have the inside track for that number 1 seed. They've got 12 wins, the only team in the NFL at 12-3. So the Packers, I believe they clinch with just one more win. They might be able to rest their starters if they want in Week 18 against the Lions. But Packers play the Vikings this week to essentially clinch the number 1 seed. And another really good game for Aaron Rodgers playing.
Will I read you my first note for this game?
Really good ball. And let's get into the other side of it.
Going into this game, Baker said it was the best he'd felt since injuring his shoulder in like week 2, and then proceeds to play like a drunk Blake Bortles, was what I have in my first note.
I'm telling you, there needs to be a segment where Sam just reads his notes. Yeah. Was this, I see you over Christmas dinner just kind of, I hope it's by hand, just jotting them down.
No, we have a document.
Oh, okay.
I mean, look, this was bad.
A drunk Blake Bortles.
It really was. Like,
yeah.
Just all these ridiculous interceptions / turnover-worthy plays. And you're like, what are you doing? Like, you're not this dumb. You simply are not. Because you didn't get to where you were, where you have been, by being this bad. What is happening for you to put some of these passes in the air? Now, look, there's some weird, like, mitigating factors in some of them. The first pass he attempted to Donovan Peoples-Jones deep down the field. Now, okay, it's into like double coverage deep down the field on a play that was never really there.
It looked like an arm punt right to Darnell Savage.
Yeah, but when you look at the tape, it's one of the most ridiculous non-calls of illegal contact I've ever seen. That's not hyperbole. Like, was it Rasul Douglas? Chucks the receiver like 15 yards downfield, hangs onto him for another 5 yards, and makes that. Like, if that had been called and or didn't happen, it would have been a questionable decision into a single high deep free safety. But that's way more understandable than it being double coverage with the cornerback sandwiching it as well. But for some reason, we're not calling illegal contact this year.
Yes, and so I was, as I've been watching the games, right? It does feel, and I tweeted this out one of the nights. It feels like illegal contact has disappeared. Remember the NFL had emphasized it for a while, and it's just you really aren't supposed to be able to contact the receiver after 5 yards, and it got ridiculous for a few years. It felt like the calls were too much. Like it's 6 yards and you barely touch them. It's like, oh, illegal contact.
And this is one of those things where, like, there's gradations of this, right? And this is probably why it's disappearing. But there are types of contact where it's after 5 yards, and you're like, yes, that is just part of playing quarterback. Fair enough. What happened here is not of that ilk. It's like Rasul Douglas jumped in front of the receiver who was running deep past him, blocked him, and then grabbed hold of him so that even once the receiver started to shed the block and get off him, he held. Like, it's the most ridiculous non-call of the week.
Yeah. So, look, I had to look it up, and what I saw from there haven't been many illegal contact calls this year. There's about a third of the illegal contact calls of what they had compared to what they had at the peak a few years ago when they were emphasizing it. And then there's other times when it feels like there's a defensive hold, which is usually a 5-yard penalty. And I feel like they're just throwing it right into the defensive pass interference bucket too much. Like, even if the ball's not in the air, PI, just calling it a spot foul. So it's I don't know. Again, I don't want to talk about the refs nonstop.
No, and this is not to. This was just a weird play because it was a bad decision anyway. I think from Baker Mayfield to put the ball in the air, but it definitely should have been a penalty, which is kind of the story of the Browns' offense in this game. Not the penalties thing, but everything was always something wrong, right? Like Donovan Peoples-Jones. Baker Mayfield gets another one of those 2-minute chances to win the game or to alter it just before either the half or full time. So late in the game, the Browns defense did a phenomenal job in the second half, basically stopped Green Bay scoring. All of a sudden, Cleveland gets the ball. Baker Mayfield, 2 minutes, go change the narrative. Go be something other than the disaster you've been for the first while of this game. Same results. Now, okay, this time it looked slightly less ridiculous than the previous 2-minute shots he's had in that they were actually moving the ball a bit. They were going somewhere. And then ridiculous, turnover. Donovan Peoples-Jones this time, I think, got owned on the dig route, so it kind of screwed Baker Mayfield. Peoples-Jones also dropped a bomb earlier in the game. On the other hand, he did bail Baker Mayfield out in the end zone by preventing an interception. But the point is, with the Browns offense, there was always something going wrong in this game. Whether it was Baker, whether it was Peoples-Jones, it just couldn't all get right at the same time.
Yeah, and if you leave it all to chance, as they did. I mean, look, Baker still ended up 4 interceptions, 4 turnover-worthy plays. They weren't all the same plays, right? He had a dropped crossing route to Austin Hooper in there as well. But, man, I don't know. Is this the game where the Browns decide we're out on Baker Mayfield? It's at Green Bay, and your defense did hold. The Packers didn't – they score 3 points in the second half?
Yeah.
Your defense holds Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers to 3 points in the second half.
Which, by the way, is a weird – does it feel like that's a characteristic of – I don't know if it's Aaron Rodgers or just the Green Bay offense generally, but they go from looking absolutely unstoppable to all of a sudden being stopped for huge periods of time like a switch is flipped.
It happened in the Ravens game, too. I mean, they should have pulled away from the Ravens a couple weeks ago as well. And then the Ravens just made a stop here, made a stop there, and they cut down a 2-score lead to a 2-point conversion attempt to win it.
This game almost seemed designed to make Baker Mayfield look terrible. Every time he made a hideous decision or turnover, Aaron Rodgers answered with a bomb on the next play, right? Turnover, Green Bay get the ball, boom, straight down the field, absolute dime from Rodgers to whatever intended receiver, and you're like, wow, all this you already felt bad about having Baker Mayfield as your quarterback. All of a sudden, it gets made to make you feel even worse because you just saw what a legit quarterback does immediately the next play. But then again, it's if it's that easy, how come he just stopped scoring? Where does this go for huge periods of time? And then the other funny thing out of this game was Rodgers passes Brett Favre for all-time touchdowns in Green Bay, 400 and whatever it is, right? And they hold up the side-by-side graphic. And it's Favre, it's 400 and whatever the number is, versus 220 interceptions. Rodgers, the same 400 plus 1, and then 84 or something insane.
Yeah,
it's the difference in turnovers from those two guys was mind-blowing.
And, even adjusting for era,
right,
it's still a massive difference the way Favre and Rodgers played the game. So Rodgers playing really, really well. I mean, he had a pass, too, that probably would have sealed the game. Devontae Adams actually dropped it, the cover 2 shot. So Rodgers threw the ball extremely well, even a little bit better than his stat line would show, even with the 3 interceptions. But, yeah, the Packers offense, that's why they got stopped. I think there was a couple drops here and there.
Yeah, that's part of it, but everybody has those, right? It's just that when –
theirs were coming at key times. But, yes, they only scored 3 points in the second half. Let the Browns back into it, and the Browns could not capitalize.
This game also, it's becoming a theme, Steve. Rugby is taking over the NFL. Multiple rolling mauls in this game. Not scrums, rolling mauls.
Of course.
Chris was talking about it on the Washington-Dallas game yesterday. He was actually designing plays. You see, we got to get Chris in the rugby section of PFF.
Is Chris in our rugby
He's
chat?
actually drawing up plays where the tackles loop back around and pile in and start driving this thing forward. I like it. But multiple plays in this game where the Browns and Packers are executing rolling mauls. And then Dallas at the start of the game had like a lateral thing. I'm telling you, rugby, it's starting.
Yeah, everybody was like, what's going on? It's the first quarter. What are you doing? And no, this is designed.
And I and PFF, of course, are available for rugby consultation. Very reasonable fees. If you work for an NFL team, contact Steve and IQ. We'll throw that in the IQ bucket.
It should definitely be in the IQ package. Yeah. We do have several teams jumping onto the PFF IQ bandwagon.
You add that into your PowerPoint, rugby consultation fee?
If you could just send me a slide explaining exactly what we're going to do with the rolling malls and all that stuff.
Gotcha.
We could,
Mine will be done in Prezi, so if you could just fold that into the PDF, the PowerPoint.
It's a deep cut. Also in this game, if you told me that Nick Chubb was going to average 7.4 per carry, so 17 carries, 126 yards. Dearness Johnson also gets in there with 58 yards on just 4 carries. They get Anthony Schwartz and his speed in space for a couple carries as well. The Browns averaged 8.8 per carry, 219 yards, and they still could not do it. They couldn't win. Yeah.
There were a couple of people making the point that, like, if they just hadn't passed the ball, like, at all, if they had gone in there with the New England game plan, against Buffalo,
you get 3 passes, Baker. Right. Make the most of it.
Baker, you get 3 passes. Just don't throw any of them to Green Bay.
Oh, plus, Chubb had another 58 yards through the air. I mean, it did feel like they were just like, all right, 2-minute drill, get the ball in Chubb's hands. Get the ball into our playmakers' hands.
Which is what they should be doing.
Yeah.
But this is why I made the point weeks ago that, like, Baker Mayfield should shut himself down because all he's doing is costing himself money. Like, the longer this goes, the more people just collectively agree to ignore the fact that the dude is playing with a broken shoulder. I understand it's on his non-throwing hand, but there's no way you can tell me that the second interception, was it, in particular, was not...
He had one where he's kind of...
Like, he's trying to arm it out there.
The front arm is important for balance, and his was just kind of there.
It looks like... If you've ever damaged your arm or your shoulder and you've got that thing where you're not in a sling yet, so you just have to kind of hold your arm like this, and pretend it's in a sling.
Yes.
That's kind of how Baker was holding his broken shoulder on that play while he tried to arm the ball to the intended receiver, airmailed it 3 yards over his head, threw it right to a Green Bay Packer. I would be amazed if that wasn't heavily impacted by the injury in his shoulder. But because he's been doing it for 12 weeks, we're all just like, that's just Baker.
Yeah,
well,
Baker
it hasn't been for most of his career.
What people are going to say. Well, either way.
How are we doing on time? Was that tight?
That was not as tight as I'd hoped.
Oh, okay.
But a big Christmas Day game, win for the Packers. Browns moved to 7-8 because then I have to do the recap. Like, where do teams stand and where are the standings and all that stuff. The Browns are, where did they go? 12th. 12th in the AFC. They could have been 7th, but they're 12th.
Yeah.
They could have been in first.
Right. They would have been first in the division for a brief period.
The AFC North, where it truly is, if you're not first, you're last.
Yeah.
And the Browns are in last at 7-8-1. 7-8. Sorry, I was looking at the Steelers too. Browns are in last in the AFC North at 7-8, behind the 7-7-1 Steelers, of course. All right, let's go Colts Cardinals here. So the Colts win again, and they're the team nobody wants to play. We remember that because, look, they can win. They can win in different ways. Carson Wentz he pulled some huge plays just out in this game when they needed them. And, man, the Cardinals regressing a little bit here over the second half of the season. Again, is this just their theme, the Cardinals?
Baker Mayfield and Carson Wentz felt like the opposite of each other this week, where I was trying to I was watching that Browns Green Bay game, and you're like, this is going to sound ridiculous, but outside of the hideous, ridiculous decisions, that's ridiculous twice in the same sentence, outside of the hideous, terrible decisions to heave the ball straight to Green Bay Packers players, Baker Mayfield actually played okay. Like he was delivering some decent passes to receivers, and it kind of looked all right. And then he would make clang, where you hit the wrong key in the piano and just this hideous sound ruins the song. That's what Baker was doing every couple of minutes. Wentz was almost the opposite, where the bass line was ugly and things were looking bad and just janky. And then every now and then you just pull out a dime in a key situation, like, oh, okay, yeah. And those are the key plays that you remember. So you come out of the game, you're like, oh, Wentz was fantastic. Or Baker is the worst quarterback I've ever seen, drunk Blake Bortles. The key plays at the key times are the things that you remember, and they It takes a lot of baseline to drag that in the other direction. But you did kind of come out of this game thinking that, Wentz has delivered some dimes there, but God, that was ugly.
That's Wentz, man. Look, if he starts, he had the rollout, Desmond Patton touchdown, rolling out, and just almost looked like he was throwing it away, finds him in the back of the end zone. There were some huge plays in there to complement the great Jonathan Taylor, who goes 27 carries for 108 yards with a 43-yarder in there. They continue to have options offensively. Pittman had another 8 catches in this game, and T.Y. Hilton. So Colts doing just enough offensively, but their defense made a bunch of plays. Kyler was up and down in this one, but hit a bunch of throws, had a 57-yard scamper in there. It's always a scamper when it's Kyler Murray,
he is
right?
The personification of the word scamper.
Very scampery. But it was a lot of – they only got A.J. Green involved for the one go ball, right, for 33 yards. Kyler threw a nice ball there. It was a lot of underneath stuff with Chase Edmonds and Zach Ertz and Christian Kirk. I think they might be missing DeAndre Hopkins more than I anticipated. Not that Hopkins isn't awesome, but they had done such a nice job of not relying on him during the season. I thought they would be a little better off, and that's going to be a factor, right? I mean, the Cardinals might sleepwalk into the playoffs, and DeAndre Hopkins comes back, and people slept on him too much, and they could be dangerous. But right now, you're just kind of like not seeing that production being replaced from Hopkins in this offense.
Yeah, I also I think Cliff Kingsbury has something of that. Remember a few weeks ago, the narrative was that Sean McVay has had this run of, generally the broad strokes of an NFL season are everybody starts off, you play 6, 7, 8 weeks, and then teams adjust. They figure out what you're doing in the course of the season, they make adjustments, and the next 6, 7, 8 weeks are how did you adjust to the adjustments? Because all of a sudden what you were doing to begin with the season is being taken away or combated in a different way than it was when nobody had tape on you. And the narrative was that historically, Sean McVay's offense has not done well in the second portion of the season. Once teams have adjusted to what it is he's done to start the year, things don't go the same way. And now that he's bucking that trend at the moment, the Rams offense is kind of in a resurgence. But Kingsbury has had a history of similar kind of thing, where the second half of the year, it's not been the same. And I wonder if there's something to that with him, the same way I was wondering if there's something to it with McVay, where it hasn't looked the same. Now, yeah, you can point to DeAndre Hopkins obviously as a significant hole in that offense and something they're missing. On the other hand, we were saying earlier in the year that what made that offense so potent is that they had so many different weapons, and they still do. Like, only one of them is gone. Okay, right. It's the most important one.
It's the weapon, but they had done a nice job
but
around him.
You have still A.J. Green, Christian Kirk from the slot, Rondale Moore, Zach Ertz. The backfield is good. Kyler Murray is a unique weapon. Like, you still have a lot to work with. If you're telling me that DeAndre Hopkins removed from that is what takes it from being one of the best offenses in the NFL to just, I mean, that doesn't feel like great coaching.
Yeah, and look, they had done a better job this year of finding other alternatives besides Hopkins, but there is something him being on the field and opening things up for those other weapons, and we just didn't see that in this particular game.
The other point that's a good thing for the Colts is that their offense has been very closely or very tightly correlated with the health of their offensive line generally this year, right? And as soon as that line got healthy was when that offense started to cook, and Jonathan Taylor in particular. Their offense went back to being pretty banged up. Quentin Nelson didn't play. Julian Davenport was on the field. Anytime that happens, it's a terrible, terrible thing for your offense. Julian Davenport had a pass blocking grade of 21, Eric Fisher 29, Danny Pinter, which one are we going with there?
I think it's Pinter.
41. They had 4 guys with a pass blocking grade of 44 or lower, and they still got it done.
Yeah, they were beat up front. A lot of turnover both before the game and during the game, right? So that was an impressive effort by the Colts. So an update on the standings here. The Colts right now, number 5 seed at 9-6, one of 4 teams in the AFC who are 9-6. The other 2 of them are division leaders, though, Bengals and Bills. So the Colts have this 5 seed just above the Patriots, winning the tiebreaker right now. in that wild card battle because the Patriots fell out of the top spot in the AFC East, whereas the Cardinals, they fall to the number 5 spot in the NFC. They're 10-5, and they're behind 3 different teams that are 11-4. So it looks like the Cardinals are probably going to be in that 5 spot unless you see, well, not necessarily, because the Rams are now a game ahead. How about this? The Rams are a game ahead in the NFC West above the Cardinals. So we're seeing the narrative of the second half collapse is happening again. Last year you were like, oh, just flip the season upside down for the Cardinals, and maybe it's just a second half.
Cardinals did this thing of like the very second you bought into them was when this started to go off the rails. Not you personally, but you collectively.
No, generally. They keep impressing.
Eric had this on the live show. Like one of the things we wish we could take back. He had 2 weeks ago, his take was, Cardinals have been like the most impressive team in the NFL. Literally, it's the second everybody finally bought into the Cardinals was the second the thing fell off the rails.
It was a lot like the Titans. Both teams had earned it. They had earned it in doing it in unexpected fashion, but not great the last few weeks for these Cardinals. Working from home is more important than ever now. Optimize your home office with an X-Chair and our many accessories to enhance your focus, productivity, energy, and comfort. Once you feel the customized support of X-Chair's patented dynamic variable lumbar, there's no going back. It's all in the LMX massage and temperature regulation, exclusively designed and made for the X-Chair. With versatile comfort and extraordinary design, X-Chair fits any space. Check it out on YouTube right there. You see the cooling, the heating. Haven't used the cooling yet here in winter, but the heating's beautiful every morning when it's freezing. And the massage element is awesome. High performance, quality engineering, extreme comfort. Also, all reasons why I love my X-Chair. And now I can't wait to get to work. And the X-Chair makes it that much better. Get the little headrest. It's comfortable. It's all great. So go to xchairnflpod.com now. That's the letter X, chair, NFLPOD.com. Or call 1-844-4XChair for $100 off your order. X-Chair has a 30-day guarantee of complete comfort, and you can finance your purchase for as little as $30 a month. It's xchairnflpod.com. If you're watching on YouTube, check out the link in the description. All right, that's the Saturday Christmas games. We'll get into, was it Friday Christmas? Saturday was Christmas?
Saturday, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm losing track. Yesterday was Sunday. Let's get into the Sunday games.
True.
Starting with the 1 o'clock affairs, let's go with the Bengals. Do you have something to say?
No.
Bengals 41, Ravens 21. Of course, Josh Johnson gets the start for the Baltimore Ravens.
Of course.
Anytime you can have this is just the NFL this year. The best quarterback on the Jets this season, Josh Johnson, getting the start for the Ravens here in Week 16, obviously. But the Bengals, man, another statement game. And I will say, back on the preview show, we said this needs to be a Joe Burrow game. You got to go in and say, come on, defend the pass game. Depleted Ravens secondary. Try to cover this. And the Ravens tried. They tried to play zone. They tried to play man. Everything they tried. Joe Burrow lit them up. 37 for 46 for 525, 4 touchdowns and no interceptions. There were a couple negative plays in there that didn't show up on the stat sheet, and some nice stuff from T. Higgins there that maybe helped Burrow out a little bit. But boy, what a dominant outing. And this was that game where you have T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, all going off. Joe Mixon, all going off in the pass game. And this is pinnacle of what the Bengals could be offensively.
Was it you that was making that point recently that, the Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady's of the world, these demented people that find slight in anything, they're just built in that weird way, right?
Yeah.
Where, Brady still cries over the 6 guys who were drafted in front of him, 20 years later, and, a Hall of Fame career that puts anybody else, he's in the Jerry Rice territory of you are so far divorced from every other human that's done this. You're in your own stratosphere that nobody's ever going to come close to. And yet, the mention of these 6 nobodies drafted in front of him still literally brings the man to tears. And you're like, what is wrong with you? I think Burrow is built of that same thing, right?
That's a good thing for Bengals fans.
Yes, generally. And, the Wink Martindale stuff before the game, who's we're not going to treat Jamar Chase the same way as Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is the best receiver in the game. And, Burrow is a nice player, but don't give the guy a gold jacket yet. All this kind of stuff. And it's factually true, but why say it? Where's the upside? What are you gaining by putting that into the world in front of a dude who was built like that? In front of a guy who is demented and is going to take that as a personal slight and use it against you. And all of a sudden, Burrow goes out there. And what would be fascinating is, I wonder how many plays that were called runs, you know? 1st and 10, let's dial up our favorite run here. And Burrow's like, the hell with that. Going deep. T. Higgins, bomb. Like, Burrow just went out there and absolutely carved up Baltimore. Now, look, the Ravens have no cornerbacks left, right? Anthony Everett was like the one that they had left, and he left on a stretcher during the game. Tavon Young missed some snaps, so he looks okay. Like, Baltimore secondary is in bits right now. And, of course, their quarterback was Josh Johnson, and as much as he did some stuff late in the game, it wasn't going particularly well earlier. But I don't understand why people put that stuff into the world before a game.
I mean, the other part that's true is you can't just give Jamar Chase all the attention. This is what we've been saying the last few weeks. Now, last week against Denver, there just wasn't much happening offensively for either team, right? The Bengals just kind of, trudged their way through to victory, and they didn't show their explosiveness. This was like, man, when you're drawing it up in the offseason and you're looking at the depth chart, and it's like, all right, we got Jamar Chase. He's our true number one. And he was awesome in this game, right? 7 catches, 125 yards, looked dynamic. But he ran a dig route, just looked fast and excellent after the catch, made a bunch of huge plays. But you can't give him all the attention because T. Higgins has been so good during the second half of the season, using that, basketball frame. Remember when he was coming out of Clemson, you just like, this dude can high point it. He's just got these athletic skills that you don't see for guys his size. All of that on display in this game. And then, it helps when you have Tyler Boyd running a little, out and up or stick nod, really, and nobody covers him, right? And you get a nice 68-yard touchdown there. That helps as well. But I'm just saying, like, after all of that, and, the Ravens are trying to creep back into it. I love the game plan. The Ravens were trying to get back into it. The Bengals still up at least 2 scores at one point, and the Bengals just threw the ball like 7 straight times. They're just dropping back, and they're just going. They're saying, that was awesome. That was a huge thing to see. In this same season, Joe Burrow threw the ball like 3 times in the second half in a game when they were up. I love the Bengals saying, go ahead, cover these guys. You can't do it.
It's so insane to see, like, now you're going to let him throw. You're up by a huge amount. He's already got like 450 yards. Now is the time. You've decided, oh, no, screw it. Let Joe Burrow cook. Yeah, I mean, this is what we've been calling for weeks. Of course, this is what your offense should be. You have a quarterback that was PFF's number 1 graded quarterback all of a sudden, and we were trying to, like, justify this. The guy leads the league in interceptions. How come he's the number 1 quarterback? Well, this is how he's been playing, except the coaching has been out there going, no, run the ball. Hand Joe Mixon another one. Like, they have been holding back Joe Burrow over the course of the year, but this is how he's been playing. And if you embrace that and just let it rip, like, the Bengals are dangerous.
Very dangerous. It was awesome. It was really impressive to see what they were able to do. This was how this offense was designed, as far as what they're capable of. And then it's like, all right, late in the game, if you want to run the ball, mix in a little bit, that's fine. And it's nice to have games where the run game is effective. From a Burrow perspective, he had another play that was negated in there where he slipped like 2 or 3 sacks and then kind of chucked it up or whatever. I do think he's got to be careful. He's making a lot of those good plays, creating yards and creating big plays, but still always worry a little bit about that injury. But man, what a dominant outing by Burrow and the Bengals against a depleted Ravens team.
Yes.
But again, you have to. We always joke about the Vikings playing up and down to their competition. The Vikings would have come in and given Dalvin like 97 carries, and it would have been a 3-point game in the fourth quarter. Instead of saying, "Here's our advantage, let's attack it," and boy, did the Bengals take advantage of it.
The only thing you need is you have to hope that this was like a watershed moment for them, right? A realization that, oh, look, if we actually lean into this, look what happens. Now, again, okay, against a battered secondary and all those kinds of things, but if this doesn't serve as an indication that this is what this offense should look like, now look, it's not going to be. You're not going to want every week for Joe Burrow to be putting the ball in the air like 46 times, and it's going to be a little bit more balanced than that. But this should be a pass-first offense, not a run-first offense, and this game should indicate that to them. And if it doesn't, that's problematic.
All right, so Tyler Huntley couldn't go. Lamar Jackson couldn't go. So you get Josh Johnson in there. It was already an uphill battle for the Ravens.
Yeah, what was fascinating is that the Vegas line like sequentially jumped points at each increment of the news. Like when it was like a 7-point line or something when it was Lamar Jackson at quarterback, and then when it became clear that that wasn't happening, it went down to like 4.5 or something for Huntley, and then like dropped down to 2 or something by the time it was Josh Johnson coming in off the street to get this thing done. It was just a fascinating example of, the quarterback moves the Vegas line, right? And this is part of the PFF's power rankings and green line and all those kinds of things. It's built in the power that the quarterback has on moving the Vegas line, and therefore your likelihood of winning a game. You sort of saw that in real time this week when the Bengals, on paper, went through 3 different starting quarterbacks at various points.
And Johnson, man, like played pretty well, especially given the.
Well, that's the ultimate irony, is that the line moved 7 points across 3 different quarterbacks, and the PFF grade is about the same for all 3 of them this year.
Yeah, I mean, Johnson played well again. His 14th team. Explain Josh Johnson to everybody in 20 seconds.
Josh Johnson has now played for 14 different teams in the NFL and 4 different professional football leagues. Is probably the most prolific quarterback in the NFL in terms of variety of sides he is suited up for. You know those like guys that have like their own personal trophy cabinet? It's got like, here's my jersey, like Joe Montana, right? Here's my 49ers jersey, here's my Chiefs jersey. This was me.
Maybe Notre Dame in there.
Josh Johnson must have just a room full of his own jerseys and helmets of like everybody.
Oh, that would be amazing. I hope he has all of them. It's impressive, man, that he could come in and like play decent football. I'd want him on my team, me and everyone else.
He's also got he has one of the most ridiculous college statistical profiles of all time. Like his final season was under Jim Harbaugh at the University of San Diego, I think, like before Harbaugh went somewhere significant. And he threw like 45 touchdowns and 1 pick, and the pick hit his receiver in the hands. His career total was like 115 touchdowns to like 15 picks or something. Like one of the most insane statistical outputs ever at the college level. Goes to the NFL, never quite happens for him. On the other hand, like the league can't quit the guy. And
Drafted
here he is.
2008 out of San Diego.
Yeah.
But, yeah, man, sticking around. Pretty impressive. And Mark Andrews continues to be QB proof.
Yes.
As much as we're complimenting Josh Johnson, the point is Andrews gets another 125 yards and a score. No matter who the quarterback is, Mark Andrews, I think, in that elite conversation among those top tight ends for the Ravens. So where does this leave us here?
Bengals swept Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Like they've dropped a lot of games this year where you're like, yeah, you really shouldn't have dropped that one. On the other hand, sweeping Baltimore and Pittsburgh is going to put you in a pretty good situation.
Yeah, I mean, look, if Joe Burrow was going to be the guy coming into this year and the next couple years, I thought there would be some signature wins. I've predicted many of these signature wins. And signature just meaning the Steelers and the Ravens have owned this division for years.
Right, but when you look at, like, they have losses to Chicago, to the New York Jets, the Chargers in San Francisco, those make sense. Cleveland, like they've got some ridiculous losses on their schedule. But if you sweep the Ravens and the Steelers within your division, you're always going to be in a pretty good spot for progression.
Yeah, so the Bengals are now in first in the AFC North at 9-6 on the back of those wins. Ravens are still in the playoff picture, number 7 seed right now. Tied, they're at 8-7, tied with the Chargers and the Raiders. They got the tiebreaker. We won't get into the tiebreaker.
Oh, thank God.
Why was this? Wins tiebreak.
Stop. You said we won't. Stop it. Stop getting into the tiebreakers.
I'm still trying to figure out.
I don't care. Nobody cares.
3-way tiebreakers are different if the teams are in different divisions. What?
You're the guy that wants to get on the road and get out of here. We don't have time.
Yeah, we got a
for
minivan to get
crap.
into. Do we try to crank it out all in one day, or do we do a hotel? I don't know. We're still debating because we're getting a late start because of the podcast. You see.
Yeah.
We're usually on the road by now.
Right.
For the 16 hours excursion.
Can't believe you drive anywhere 16 hours with 4 kids.
It's a piece of cake. 4 kids, they love it. They love it.
The only way I would drive anywhere for 16 hours with 4 kids is if the kids were in a trailer in a different vehicle to me.
How do you know we don't do that?
I don't. I'm just saying that's the only way I would do it.
We try to do it without electronics too.
God, what is wrong with you?
But the kids, the oldest, just got a couple.
All 4 kids would be given an iPad and headphones if I was doing this in the trailer.
We did give them. We've got some hand-me-down iPads and Kindles for the oldest.
With like instructions on how to text if you need a bathroom break.
Text mommy and daddy if you need to go to the bathrooms, kids. Bengals 41, Ravens 21. The other huge game in the 1 o'clock slate, Buffalo Bills 31, Patriots 21. And this one, as we had mentioned on the preview show, I mean, this was as big as any game this week. The Bills now take control of the AFC East. Both teams are tied at 9-6, but the Bills have the tiebreaker over New England based on best win percentage in division games. So this is a big one, with the Bills beating the Patriots. And it was a good back-and-forth battle. The Bills get up early. The Patriots tries to crawl back into this one. But I thought there was a couple championship-level drives and conversions by the Bills. You've got Josh Allen rolling out and shoveling it or whatever it is. I mean, he just balled out and made plays when needed. And this is what we described coming in too, right? We're like, the grade for Mac Jones and the grade for Josh Allen, they're similar, but they're getting there in different ways, where the Bills are a Josh Allen-driven team, whereas Mac Jones is more of a passenger in that Patriots offense and running it efficiently and doing some great stuff. But we saw Josh Allen take over and make some really incredible plays in this game. Mac Jones, this was one of his worst games of the year as far as missing throws and just leaving plays on the table.
Yeah, huge statement win for Buffalo. They did just enough to force the Patriots to lean on Mac Jones. Like, that was going to have to be their game plan coming into this. Like, let's just make Mac Jones beat us. And, okay, Mac Jones has shown some stuff so far this year, and maybe it's a case of be careful what you wish for, but it's definitely better than letting what happened the last time or what happened when they played the Colts happen again. Like, if Buffalo, even if they'd made the playoffs, if they had had 3 games like that where they just couldn't stop the run and they got annihilated up front and they just got physically dominated by 2 teams that are going to be in the playoffs, just psychologically, that would have been, I think, probably terminal to this team going into the postseason, because most of the AFC is built like that now. You, in the postseason, are almost certainly going to have to play one of, if not multiple of, New England again, Indianapolis, Tennessee. Like, the whole playoffs is built like that. And if that had happened to you 3 straight times, it would have been catastrophic. All of a sudden, they do just enough. And this is another one of those games where so many times, like, the first couple of drives determines how the game is going to flow from that point on. And right at the start, the game was just perfect for Buffalo. They were very aggressive on that first series. They were run blitzing the crap out of New England. Everybody at the line of scrimmage, charge into the backfield, hope they're not passing, right? So they forced the Patriots to get rid of it. And then their first drive, they execute a pretty patient drive, which again was one of the things we were saying. They hadn't necessarily done that well. Patient drive, survive a 4th down, score a touchdown. Now you've just forced New England into a more aggressive, more sort of chase the game type of scenario than, flip it the other way, right? If New England had gone down, established the run early, marched down, ran the ball, scored, all of a sudden you now have to be that, like, can we be patient? We have to press. So they flipped the game script essentially with those first 2 drives, and that was kind of the difference. Then you become this tale of 2 quarterbacks where almost every time there's a big moment, Josh Allen gets something done, carries the team on his back, whereas Mac Jones, when asked to do more, which hasn't happened that many times this season, couldn't or didn't.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm starting to come around to, like, the scoring early matters a little bit. It's that
huge.
Tone setting.
Not even scoring early, but, like, games are determined so much by, like, the situation and the flow that the first few drives can completely change how a game is going to unfold. It doesn't mean you can't flip that later if you.
Yeah, I mean, comebacks happen all the time, but
not just comebacks, but like football is such a freaky, random, singular play-driven environment that, like, changing the entire situation from a, like, setup point of view is huge.
Yeah, and I think there were definitely elements of that in this game where the Bills, they get up 7 and the Patriots match, but the Bills score a couple times before the half to go up 17-7, and it's like just enough to maybe take New England out of their comfort zone, as you mentioned. But yeah, the Bills just had answers. That's why I keep saying championship drives. They continue to have answers when the Patriots battled back. And even though, the run defense still, they gave up their yards in Buffalo. But what we keep forgetting is the Bills have one of the best coverage units in the NFL. With or without Tre'Davious White, they've done a pretty good job. Underneath coverage, took stuff away. They did not give up any big plays. They gave up a long pass of 21 yards, which was to Jacoby Myers. The Bills make life difficult for opposing passing attacks, right? So they were good, man.
And they dominated.
New England wasn't nearly as good. They left a lot of open receivers in there as well.
Right, but Buffalo dominated on third down on defense.
Well, then the interesting element, too, is both teams. They said this is the first time a team's not punted against Bill Belichick ever in a game against him, in part because the Bills were staying aggressive and going for it on fourth down, in part because the Patriots really weren't stopping them, but both teams went for a ton of fourth downs. Patriots go 5 for 6 on fourth down after going 1 for 10 on third down. Yeah. So the Patriots, they didn't curl up and get too conservative here either. They realized the aggressiveness needed to keep up with this really good Bills offense, but the Bills also go 3 for 4 on fourth down in this game as well, while also staying pretty efficient on third down. So it was a fun game from that perspective too. Teams like really realizing the importance of it and trying to keep the pressure on the opposing team.
And you have to be so impressed by Josh Allen in this game. Like, Patriots again, they kept it close. It was still in the balance. 4.5 minutes left, 4th and 1 from the New England 33, 34-yard line, something like that. Allen, they sort of fake the dive, and then Allen rolls out. New England actually has a linebacker one-on-one. They've got him in the backfield. Jamie Collins, I think, has Josh Allen one-on-one in the backfield. Allen beats him, gets over the first down line, keeps that drive going. And then I think later on the same drive, shovel passes to Stephon Diggs, keeps it going again. Allen almost single-handedly kept the ball out of New England's hands late in that game and sort of prevented any kind of comeback. The Buffalo Bills offense, more than ever this year, has been we go as Josh Allen goes. And if he doesn't play well, we've got some problems. But if he does, this is what can happen. They have at least – sometimes when you design an entire offense around a singular guy, it's not a great idea if that guy, just hasn't got those kind of championship capabilities. Josh Allen showed in this game that he is at least up to the task. Now, it doesn't mean the wheels won't fall off against a really good team, but this was a massive sort of signature win and signature performance by Allen, who didn't screw anything up, who made a bunch of huge key plays at the right time, and really carried his team to a win.
Yeah, you mentioned the patient drive that the Bills had. Josh Allen had a very low average depth of target overall, but he still had 4 big-time throws, meaning when they did throw the ball down the field, some of them were by design, some of them weren't. The laser beam to Stephon Diggs for a touchdown, huge. In the red zone, tight window, puts it right on him, but also had touch passes down the field to create chunk plays, and he just didn't miss many, right? I mean, took the underneath stuff, created big plays when needed, and like you said, they put the ball in his hands when they needed to convert on the ground, and he just makes it happen.
Right, and didn't necessarily get the rewards that he deserved all the time. Emmanuel Sanders dropped a touchdown from him. Remember, they're missing Cole Beasley for COVID. They're missing Gabriel Davis was out as well. So all of a sudden, Isaiah McKenzie gets 11 catches for 100-plus yards. He becomes the short underneath kind of guy, catching a ton of crossers and all those kinds of things. Obviously, Stephon Diggs had his as well. But this was not a perfect scenario for Josh Allen where everything's 100%. You got all the guys you're used to. I think they had some reshuffles on the offensive line as well. They got banged up, which has already been – the depth has been tested. So this was a Josh Allen put in situations that wasn't necessarily ideal and rose to the task.
The absolute there's a lot of big plays here. The absolute play of the game, though, Patriots have a big drive to get within 5. It's 26-21 Buffalo, fourth quarter. New England has to make a stop, and on first down, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs tries a triple move. I don't know if this was the route or what. Josh Allen throws it up, and for once, J.C. Jackson has the ball hit his hands and does not pick it off.
He could have had 2 picks.
In his hands. He had 2 opportunities, but this particular one in the fourth quarter, he would have had a run-up, maybe not a pick 6.
Right.
But the Patriots probably would have been in the red zone with an opportunity to take the lead in the fourth quarter, like the play that they needed. And this just kind of shows the fine line because the Bills end up scoring on this drive, and that's what put it essentially out of reach.
Yeah, like J.C. Jackson has been a fantastic cornerback. He has been an insane – he's in that Trayvon Diggs world of the dude has great hands, and there's something to the idea that those guys are more of a ball hawk than the other corners, and testing them in coverage, it's risky. It doesn't mean you can't succeed. Like last year, J.C. Jackson allowed 5 touchdowns. Generally in his career, he hasn't given up much. But like testing him with the ball is risky. You are exposing yourself to a turnover, which are the most important plays that defenders can make. And this year, throwing the ball into his coverage is giving up a passer rating of 39.6, which is the same as throwing it.
And this should have been even lower.
Right, throwing it to the ground. He has a year in his career where he gave up a lower passer rating than just junking the ball every play. And this game, he had 2 chances to bring in a pick and wasn't able to get either of them. And like, you don't want to – it's harsh to be like, well, you cost him the game. But not coming up with one of those was probably the difference between winning or losing.
All I'm saying is the Bills ran 75 plays, right? I mean, it's not the only play. But this was the first play of that drive in the fourth quarter where the Bills end up
change the game.
They go on to go 75 yards on 13 plays for the game.
It was the start of that drive, right?
Yes.
The one with the 4th downs that I've just talked about with Allen beating the linebacker and shoveling it to Diggs. Like that, on that same drive was J.C. Jackson not coming up with a pick that was in his hands.
So sometimes, look, it was a 2-score win by the Bills. Really impressive. They've been excellent this season outside of a couple blips along the way in Buffalo. But it just kind of shows that fine line in a game. One play here and there can really have a huge swing.
And also, by the way, sort of highlights how narratives can change, right? Like Josh Allen has all those signature moments and incredible
This would have been, I threw it away in the fourth quarter.
On the exact same drive, like right at the start. It's like, on the other hand, you threw the ball to J.C. Jackson.
All right, we'll get into some of the other games as well. But do you want a chance to win the ultimate game day feast? Do you want it? You're not involved, Sam.
I'll still be working through turducken, so you're okay.
That's true. You'll have leftovers forever. Whether it's football success or financial savvy, winning starts with asking us questions. Would you like to know what it's like behind the scenes with Al on Sunday Night Football? How about a need to know on your financial future? Western and Southern is teaming up with PFF's very own Chris Collinsworth to share insights that can help put you ahead on both your fantasy and financial scoreboards. Every submission earns you a chance to win the ultimate feast to celebrate football's favorite Sunday. We'll cover your catering up to $2,500 to coordinate your order from a restaurant near you and have it delivered on February 13th, 2022. Remember that date. It's an important date. Sunday afternoon, big football game. And don't forget to check out the Chris Collinsworth podcast and Western and Southern's Instagram for answers to the best questions each week. Submit your questions at westernsouthern.com/askchris. One more time, it's westernsouthern.com/askchris. If you're watching on YouTube, check out the link in the description below. Remember, with Western and Southern, you can rest assured on game day. All right, another huge 1 o'clock game, because there were some bad 1 o'clock games too, which we're definitely going to go much quicker through. Big one, LA Rams 30, Minnesota Vikings 23. So the Rams moved to 11-4, as we mentioned earlier, sole possession of first place in the NFC West, now a game ahead of the Arizona Cardinals, whereas the Vikings continue your trend, right? Is this right?
Loss, win. That's how they're going to finish the season.
Loss, win. They're not going to beat the Packers?
No.
Okay. Well, the Vikings moved to 7-8 in disappointing.
This did ruin their streak, though, of having held at least a 6-point lead at every single game this season.
That's incredible. Yeah, they were playing from behind.
All the way.
Trailing this entire time. Vikings moving to 7-8, now number 9 in the NFC. They're going to need to win, but also need some help to get back in the playoff picture here.
They are going to need to win, yes.
They have to help themselves and also get help from other teams. Is the point.
Stafford's low light reel is incredible.
Yeah.
Like he makes some phenomenal plays, and that's kind of the thing that's always been used to prop up Stafford, is that guy can do things that other quarterbacks can, and he opens up every area of the field, and you have to defend every inch of grass because when Stafford's on, he'll see things that other quarterbacks don't and fire that ball in there with that laser arm. Sure, The other hand, he'll also just like randomly pitch the ball right to defenders for no good reason. And when he does that like a bunch of times in a game, it's not good.
He had some that were like close, and then there was the one that he threw to Anthony Barr.
Yeah.
And it's why like I don't always love pick six stats, because the pick six is usually a bad decision. Sometimes it's unlucky, but it's also dependent on the defense, right? So he's late in the down. Stafford just kind of throws it right up to Anthony Barr, who kind of loses his balance. Like if he just kept his feet, he's probably walking in for a pick six, but it was an atrocious decision in Rams territory.
And these things are connected. Like the idea that a quarterback that can see things that other quarterbacks can't in terms of like where to take a shot, in a weird time in the play, or something outside of the design of the play or at a different sequence. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these, the paint by numbers quarterbacks, the Jared Goffs of the world, where it's like, here's how the play is drawn up on the chalkboard, and you go from 1 to 2 to 3, and this is your sequence, and you're like, Jalen Hurts gave this great description after the play of like, hey, how come you didn't see this wide open dude in the end zone? What were you seeing? And he's like, well, it's all based on a pre-snap read, and that dictates where I'm going, and that dictates like how I'm reading this, and then I high-low it, and that's where the ball goes. So the read took me to some other place than the guy who busted open, right? That's generally how quarterbacking works. And the sort of selling point of Matthew Stafford is that, yeah, I mean, he can do that, but he doesn't a lot of the time. And when you break those rules, like understanding when to break them opens up a whole new world of things defenses don't generally have to worry about, because they're sort of defending the paint by numbers scheme, right? We clamp down on this, and this is the route combination, blah, blah. So Stafford opening up that stuff is the reason that he makes a ton of plays. On the other hand, there is a reason that it's coached the way it's coached, and that there's a reading sequence, because when you go outside of that framework and you start kind of doing stuff on your own, you are opening up things in the defense that typically you don't have to concern yourself with. So, one of his plays, one of his turnover-worthy plays in this game, not the one where he just pitched the ball straight to Anthony Barr. It's like, late in the play, he's aiming on something that was like it would have been like a backside dig or a regular dig when it was first open. Stafford is like, well, let's wait a while. Then, let's come back to that. I'm sure it's still open. But at the point he came back to it, A, it's a harder throw to make for most quarterbacks. But B, you're now like bringing in the defender from the other side of the field that's not supposed to be anywhere near that play. So, like, it cuts both ways, right? The fact that you can even think about making that throw is good sometimes. But on the other hand, it also brings in defenders that aren't normally involved in the play. And you get plays like this where it comes back to bite you.
So Stafford had probably... Was this officially his worst game of the year? I mean, the Titans game was up there as well. And the Rams still won. So yes. That is the other part that is pretty important in this. Obviously, we're not just trying to trash
worst
Stafford
grade of the year.
His worst grade of the year, and the Rams still find a way to win. Brandon Powell with the huge punt return, 61 yards. I mean, that was the real game changer. And then we talked about the Bills' drive to kind of seal that game with the against the New England Patriots. The Vikings, they were lurking around and making their comeback. They were down 27-13. Cousins throws a touchdown to KJ Osborne. And then the Rams come back, right? So it's a one-score game. It's the fourth quarter. The Rams come back with a 13-play, 69-play drive, a 69-yard drive, six minutes taken off the clock to end it, essentially. Field goal to essentially end the game. Yeah, the Vikings get back to a one-score game with a field goal late and can't get the onside kick. But that was a huge drive, right? So, I mean, we talk about the ebbs and flows of the game. The Rams answered. They had the running game going pretty well with Sony Michel. So even in a game where Stafford wasn't good, getting some production from the rushing attack with Sony Michel, getting the punt return, of course. Cooper Kupp still finding his way to 100 yards with 109 on 10 catches. Full team effort here for the Rams, which was impressive.
Their offensive line holding up the way it did was really important for them. When you're going into this game, you're like, if Justin Jefferson doesn't have like a monster performance, it's pretty tough to see how the Vikings win this game. And the one way you could kind of look at it and say, well, they're without Andrew Whitworth. The Rams offense has been really tightly connected to how well their offensive line has performed down the years. And if Minnesota and their banged-up defensive line can control the line of scrimmage and win up front, put Stafford under pressure, that's a way you can win this game. It didn't go that way. Like they had some backups playing, and all of them held up well enough. Like they weren't necessarily superstars, but neither were any of them liabilities. On the flip side, the Vikings offensive line trying to block Aaron Donald, etc. They had 3 guys. Their interior trio all had pass blocking grades of 35 or lower.
7 pressures plus 6 other quick wins for Aaron Donald.
Yeah. Oli Udoh had 6 pressures allowed plus 4 more blown, like losing reps. Garrett Bradbury, like Ezra Cleveland, the interior trio for the Vikings just got wrecked by Aaron Donald.
Just a lot of plays that get blown up. That's it. Aaron Donald every single week. So another big performance for Donald. And, huge win for the Rams. And even without Stafford, they did it. Pretty nice there. Cousins overall played okay, put the ball in harm's way, had a late fumble. That was, I think they ended up recovering, but he had a couple turnover-worthy plays in there as well. And Rams now controlling the NFC West. Huge turn of events. It felt like they were working from behind. They hit that midseason lull, but they're back. All right, where else are we going in this 1 o'clock slate here? It was not a whole bunch of good games. Let's go through them. Houston Texans 41. What? 41-29 over the Chargers. What is up with the Chargers? We were joking. Texans destroyed by COVID problems, but their depth took over.
Well, the good thing about the Texans is that their depth is the same as their starters. Like,
right?
Losing 15 players for the Texans has no effect. The next 15 are exactly the same as the first 15.
The Rex Burkheads of the world, Brevin Jordans and Chris Conleys and Philip Dorsetts of the world, they're all the same as their starters.
They flashed up a graphic a couple of weeks ago. I forget what game it was, but Justin Herbert had said something like, when you're in the NFL, the more you learn, the more you discover that you don't really know anything, right? And I kind of joked that, all of a sudden Justin Herbert has become Socrates. That famous quote from Socrates that's like, the only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. That is the NFL season this year. Like, nobody knows anything. None of it makes any sense. The longer you go into the season, the more you come to the conclusion that you should stop thinking you know anything about this year. Because the second you do, something's going to happen to immediately dispel that fallacy. Like, the Chargers are really, or the Cardinals are really impressive this year. Loss. Like, no, forget it. You got that wrong. Everything you thought you knew. Like, look, Sean McVay's offense really struggles in the second half of the year once everyone figures out what he's doing. Cooks again. Like Matthew Stafford's back on target. Even when he's throwing the ball to defenders, doesn't matter. Everything you think you know about this season just disappears in a puff of smoke the second you think you know it. So embrace the Socratic wonder that is the NFL season in 2021 and just stop trying to make sense of it.
You told me you had a big metaphor.
No, that's not even that. That's just
That wasn't it?
No, I got a good one later.
You haven't even gone to the metaphor yet?
No.
We're an hour into the show.
Yeah.
That was good, though. I mean, just everybody tune out. Sam said,
'Cause,
we don't know anything. No one knows anything.
Of course, Davis Mills, Rex Burkhead, Chris Conley, and Philip Dorsett were going to carve up the Chargers.
We've been underrating Davis Mills. Every time we expect, okay, that's why Davis Mills went in the 3rd round. And, he comes back and just starts dropping dimes like he did in this game, even without Brandon Cooks. Pretty impressive.
Davis Mills made a couple of nice throws in this game. On the other hand, this is how he traps you. Don't fall into the trap. This is Davis Mills had some NFL skills. That's why he went where he did in the draft, despite playing like crap in college. Davis Mills has a skill set that can function at the NFL level. It's not going to function for long, and don't get sucked into the one game where it works.
Huge turn. So the huge turn in this game, Justin Herbert, just before the half, throws an interception. This was he had a couple interceptions. One was a pick six. I'll talk about that in a second. But the one just before the half, that was the one ill-advised pass I think Herbert had, because it looked like just a clear out route. Like Josh Palmer's running up the seam, looked like more of a clear out than something that should be targeted. He's a little late with it, throws an interception. Davis Mills comes back, I think a couple plays later, drops an absolute dime in there for 41-yard touchdown. So it goes from Chargers are up 2 to all of a sudden the Texans have the lead going into the half. And then we get into the second half. Justin Herbert throws a pick six Second time this year, him and Jared Cook have not been on the same page with a pick six, where Jared Cook, he's running a crossing route, he starts to sit down, Herbert throws it like he's going to continue running, and it becomes a pick six. And Jared Cook, he's old. I mean, he's been around for a while, but he's a really talented player, and he's one of those tight ends that like still kind of has it physically late in his career. He hasn't completely lost his physical ability, but man, if you're going to have miscommunications that put the ball in harm's way like that, it is just such a detriment to the offense. I mean, to the team. Second time a pick six on a miscommunication to Jared Cook. So it looked like a pretty bad throw, but I think it was more on Cook than Herbert, and that ended up really, I mean, there were other parts of this game, but that was a huge play in this game. Obviously, it was pick six.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there are players like that, Jared Cook, where you're like, why is that guy not better? Right? He has all the physical tools in the world. Jared Cook physically has everything that a Darren Waller or a Travis Kelce, like those guys have. But he's never been that player. And multiple teams have happily moved on from him in the past. You're like, why? And he's been with some great quarterbacks, by the way. Like Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Justin Herbert now. Like there have been some really good guys throwing him the ball. And every one of those teams eventually goes, you know what? It's just not worth it. And I think part of that is because some of these players are like that, where you make a lot of really good plays physically, but there's just something missing, and an awful lot of you seem to be at the heart of all the problems, on these plays that break down. I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm just saying for whatever reason, you were never on the same page as the quarterback, and at some point that becomes too problematic to ignore, and obviously we're going to side with the quarterback, so bye-bye.
The other part about the Chargers here, the Brandon Staley luster early in the season. We're very excited about his new defensive scheme coming over, and he's an aggressive fourth down guy, and he's got all these things going. But boy, they've got some duds defensively here. I thought that they'd go into the offseason thinking, got a pretty good coverage unit. Staley's done a great job. He knows how to prevent big plays. They're going to get some big dudes up front to stop the run, and 5 and 6 man boxes, and the Chargers are going to be a player in the AFC West for years to come. But this pass coverage has not been good at all.
Yeah, and I think that's relevant to the Davis Mills discussion, right? And I don't want to write off Davis Mills too comically, but like priors matter, right? There's a reason this guy went where he did in the draft. And just because he has this game shouldn't make you immediately throw out everything you thought you knew about him. Like, the world being what it is, there are people in my mentions on Twitter like, oh, you still think Davis Mills sucks? Well, yes, I do. And this game didn't change it, because I remember like an A.J. Feely game back in the day, or I remember the Matt Flynn game that got him paid. Like, one game doesn't immediately eradicate everything you thought you knew about a player and go, oh, we screwed this up completely. Davis Mills played really well in this game, right? 9.4 yards per attempt, 3 big-time throws, had a pass rating of 131. The Texans' EPA per play was off the charts in passing. He was getting it done with Philip Dorsett and Chris Conley, so it's not like he was just riding an unstoppable force of receivers. On the other hand, the ball came out of his hands on 2.1 seconds on average, right, which indicates guys are open against a bad defense that isn't covering anybody. And again, like, this is not the only piece of information we have on Davis Mills. So this is a great game, absolutely great. And I've maintained for a while the single biggest thing that Davis Mills is achieving right now is bringing some context to just how disappointing the seasons of Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson are. Because this is what a quarterback should look like, who's at least showing you upside and going, oh, look, there's reasons to be excited about the future. Like, this is what that should look like, where you can go, yeah, here's a game. Like, if he does this and we eliminate the bad, and there's a future here. Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson are basically not doing that at all this season. And Davis Mills is at least giving you some reasons for optimism. But it doesn't mean you go, we screwed up the draft eval. Davis Mills is a future superstar here.
I would say forget the draft eval. Renner saying that they lit the pick on fire, I think, is an extreme. Because I would just say no quarterback pick is a waste. Kellen Mond, Davis Mills, doesn't matter. No quarterback pick is a waste. But you disagreed
with that before we saw down of Davis Mills playing the NFL.
Yeah, just because there's a chance, because QB evals are difficult, and there's a chance that he's good.
We're going to get to that I mean, we've said this before, but like tonight's game is a version of that, right? I think that Ian Book has a literal zero chance of being a successful NFL quarterback. If Ian Book goes out there tonight and has a Trevor Siemian game, where somehow puppet master Sean Payton gets something successful out of him and we look okay, that's not going to change.
You'll still believe it? You'll still believe that he's got
right.
a shot.
It would take a lot of those games for me to suddenly change that opinion. Because I don't think he has the skill set.
Are you changing your tune on Rex Burkhead? Every down running back, 149 yards and 2 scores on 22 carries.
I mean, again, a similar version, right? Did Rex Burkhead become a different human because we saw him in one game against a team that can't stop the run? No. He's still Rex Burkhead.
We do need to. I was thinking how we need to change the open at some point.
No, he's still Rex Burkhead.
Nobody knows who Joe Flacco is anymore. We got new fans in the NFL. Who's Joe Flacco?
And you think people know who Rex Burkhead is?
I'm just saying that's the same line you used on Flacco in the open. It might be time to move it to Rex Burkhead for the year. You know how they do that, and like back on sitcoms, they have a
every year
same song but like slightly different open.
You see, if we were paying attention to our like highlight, quote unquote highlights, every year we could redo the open.
Yeah, can we get Stone thinking about like our best quotes and highlights? Can we just start thinking about that?
He's probably not busy.
He's got nothing else to do. Sure. Anyway, playoff picture, just a heartbreaker for the Chargers. They're out of the playoff picture. If the playoffs started today, they'd be out of the playoff picture at 8-7, losing the tiebreaker to the Baltimore Ravens, who are also 8-7. And boy, the Chargers, just a tough one, man.
Yeah,
tough pill to swallow. Maybe they're not as good as we thought they were.
But the great thing is nobody else is either, so they're okay.
Everybody's bad. Everybody's got 7 to 9 wins, and that's it. And the NFL season is winding down. Playoffs will be here before you know it, because that's all we're talking about. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The offers are getting even more amazing from our friends over at DraftKings. New customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game. That's it, any NFL team. And if you do, listen to this, you win $200 in free bets. Do not miss out on this action. If Sportsbook isn't yet available in your state, you can still be a part of the NFL action. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy football contests. And DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet just $5 on any NFL team and win $200 in free bets if they're victorious. It's promo code PFF this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit, $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
That was a good one.
Thank you. PFF NFL Daily for tomorrow, I will not be available. So whoever you have to replace me, just for this one show, make sure they get the DraftKings read in there and do it well.
God, I might have to do it.
Or do I do it from the minivan? Do you want to hear me from the minivan on the daily?
I don't want that.
Okay. So we'll get a replacement just for tomorrow. Just for tomorrow.
I also don't want to do the read, but these are the decisions we have to make in life.
Sometimes you're just going to have to do it. It'll be my first time missing the daily. Don't get pipped. Jacksonville Jaguars, New York Jets. 26-21.
Yeah.
My son, Harry, I don't want to mention him too much, but my 6-year-old, he thought this was the biggest game of the week. I didn't have the heart to tell him. But then I started explaining draft position to him. I was like, listen, Harry, you're so focused on records and who the best teams are. Let me tell you about the other hidden game here, which is the battle for draft position. And that's what this game really had. The Jaguars maintaining their stranglehold on the number 1 overall pick. If you have thoughts on this game, bring them. But I do want to discuss how disappointed I was in the Jaguars, just everything down the stretch.
Not just the Jags. Everything in this game was disappointing. Start to finish, this game was a farce. The entire game should have had a background of that Benny Hill music.
Earmuffs, Harry. Earmuffs. It was your favorite game of the week. I don't want to take this away from Harry.
The Curb Your Enthusiasm music, like just the joke background song. That should have been accompanying all plays in this game. It was just absurd. Like, Zach Wilson, one of the signature plays of Zach Wilson's season is him just walking through the Jacksonville defense as 2 separate guys just like let him go by. One who was
Jihad Ward,
like running to the sideline, just assumed Wilson was going to go out of bounds and went out of bounds with him. Only Wilson didn't. He just kept on going, and Ward ran off the field. Then somebody else just let him cut inside. Like, it was an absolute mess. Wilson. The single play that best encapsulated this game was, again, an absolute comedy of errors, start to finish. Zach Wilson beans a dude in the head with the ball, flies up in the air, like waiting linebackers under this thing, like it's a punt about to snatch a pick six, and then catches it at the exact moment that George Fant comes in at about 700 miles an hour like a torpedo, buries this dude, annihilates him, deletes him from existence, and eradicates the interception. What makes it even better is that the dude that he hit in the head with the ball was kneeling at the time. It wasn't even like he was in his face, in an unavoidable way. He hit a guy in the head who was on his knees, having been like blocked out of the play or something. Like, that sequence was how this game played out over whatever it was, 140 plays or something.
It's a great play, George Fant. It's awesome.
It was. That was the single best play that the Jets have had this year.
Zach Wilson had the highest QBR in the league this week on the back of that 52-yard score. And
great.
Another 20-something yard scamper because, the rush yards are pretty crucial in the QBR formula. So
every
91 yards on 4 carries.
Like every sequence in this game was like a joke. It was like specifically crafted to remind you how silly these two teams both are. Like the Jags needed a fumble recovery from an offensive lineman to score a touchdown. Immediately they get the Jets have a penalty. It's now, from the 1 yard line. So of course you go for 2 in that situation. They get stuffed and then immediately give up a kick return touchdown. Like, what is this? This is not NFL football. This is a joke. This is a bad practical joke played on the poor people watching this game.
We saw a scramble touchdown from Zach Wilson finding offensive tackle Connor McDermott in the end zone. Come on, this is exciting.
Who was giving it like the Randy Moss waving "I'm open" stuff on the play.
When the guy's open, he knows he's open.
Yeah.
He knows he's got a feel for space. All that said.
That was on 4th down as well, I think. Like 4th down, of course, let's run the offensive lineman scramble touchdown pass.
I mean, who else you got to throw to if you're the Jets? McDermott's their best option. So the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has a chance for the signature moment in his rookie season. Make the big fourth quarter comeback. You're down 5, make a few plays, you had a big scramble to put them into scoring range. And then the sequence, when they get to the goal line.
Just as much of a joke as the rest of the game?
Really bad.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence throws the ball, what should be a game-ending interception, probably a 100-yard pick six dropped. So you get another opportunity. It's 2nd down now. I can't remember exactly how the play happened, but it's 2nd down. They've got no timeouts left. There's 15 seconds or whatever. Lawrence throws the ball in the end zone, kind of gets popped up or whatever, gets caught, but it's not in the end zone, right? So the forward progress puts him at the 2 or whatever it was. So the Jaguars run up. It was almost like they did not anticipate, because they didn't want to throw the ball short of the end zone, but they didn't anticipate what if.
They didn't have a second play.
They didn't have a second play, right? So Trevor Lawrence and the Jags sprint up to the line of scrimmage and spike it. On 3rd down, with enough time. They had enough time to run 2 plays, but they spiked it, so lose an entire down. That's an issue because you have to at least have another. You have to run a play.
Yes.
You have to run you need to have 2 plays. 2 plays is
with
far
that
more
little time on the clock.
Than 1.
Yeah, with that little time on the clock, you can't have not anticipated a scenario whereby the ball is caught in the field of play short of the goal line, and you need another play where you're burning it down.
So they're unprepared or whatever it is. They spike it, lose an entire down. So then it's 4th down.
Which, by the way, is a coaching issue as well as everything else. Like, it's not all Urban Meyer's fault as much of a
This is what
farce.
I'm saying. It's the entire organization. It's Trevor Lawrence's awareness, or he wasn't prepared, and preparedness is on the coaching staff and the quarterback, all of that stuff. Then it's 4th down. The Jaguars have 2 men in motion at the same time. Trevor's actually encouraging the second person to move, so you've got 2 people moving at the same time, which is illegal in football. And then he quick snaps it, doesn't let them get set. I think the play clock was running down, and it's incomplete, and the game's over anyway. But even if it was complete, it wouldn't have counted because they didn't get them set. Well, in the Bucs game, remember the opposite happened. You sent me the video. Tyler Johnson was in motion,
right?
And Brady, like a dad, put his hand up, stop. Because you can't be moving because someone else is moving. Okay, now go. Like, he made sure that 2 people weren't moving at the same time. The complete opposite of what happened here with Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. So all of this was just disappointing. if you're looking at Trevor Lawrence, salvaging the season or any of that stuff, showing signs of life, not being able to execute this comeback and really falling apart in that last series of downs was very disappointing.
Yeah, and again, neither guy really showed that much. If you're gonna give the edge to one of them, I guess you lean maybe Zach Wilson because he had the long run, despite that being a joke of the defense. He had the fourth down heave to the offensive lineman. But
Lawrence had some decent plays till the end. He also had a really bad fumble where, again, there are certain plays where guys just look like rookies, and Lawrence froze up and he did the scramble backwards and fumbles, and there's some too many ugly plays in there.
Neither guy again has shown much reason for any kind of optimism. I tweeted during the game,
not even against each other in two bad defenses.
If all you had was Trevor Lawrence's tape from this year, and you were asked to sort of reverse engineer, where was this guy drafted? What kind of prospect was he? If you didn't know anything about his college career, all you knew was week 1 to week 16 of Trevor Lawrence. Where would you say that guy had been drafted?
Not high.
Right. But not high at all.
Early in the season.
Even if you're looking at the tools, right? And you're like, oh, well, he's clearly got an arm. He can run. He's got some physical skills.
But that hasn't even been evident since about week 7 or
right.
8.
But even with that understanding, you would say, maybe second round based off the physical ability. That's it. You certainly wouldn't be like, oh, number 1 overall, generational talent. There's no evidence of that. None.
I'm going to pose some ridiculous questions this offseason. Would you offer Trevor Lawrence up for a trade to a team that needs a quarterback?
And Zach Wilson.
Just because. Sorry, really quick. The discussion would be do you want Kenny Pickett? Because I still think Trevor Lawrence gets you 3 or 4 huge draft picks, right? If somebody would want him, would you take Kenny Pickett in 3 or 4 draft picks, or Malik Willis in 3 or 4 draft picks, or Sam Howell in 3 or 4 draft picks, or just Trevor Lawrence? I think it's actually a fair question. Whereas if you said that last year before the draft, you'd be like, no, you just take the guy and you go build around him. I think this question might be on the table this offseason.
But again, similar conversation with Zach Wilson. If all you had was his tape this year, where would you say that guy had been drafted? Not high.
Not high.
And even he doesn't even have he's smaller in stature. Maybe has some sort of moderate ability to move around, right? Is not like a rushing threat, despite the 50-yard play against Jacksonville's defense that just didn't anticipate the fact that he could actually stay on the field.
I think for both of them,
reasonable. But you're not looking at these guys saying, "Oh, there's signs there," right? People keep pointing to the Peyton Manning rookie year, right? 2 problems with that. One,
people need to stop because that is revisionist history, and people are just looking at the box score. He was good as a rookie. Good as a rookie.
2 problems. One, the game is very different now than it was in 1998, right? And you can't just say Peyton Manning made a ton of mistakes in 1998, therefore Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence might be Peyton Manning. It's so much easier now for rookies to come in and not look like a complete joke than it was in 1998, where you almost had to go through this rite of passage of struggling mightily to begin your career if you were going to play early.
He was decent as a rookie.
Right. Number 2, Peyton Manning was better than the numbers would suggest. And at the end of that year, there wasn't a soul alive who came out of the season going, oh, the way Peyton Manning just led the league in interceptions? Wow, we got that wrong. Everyone was aware that, yeah, there's some growing pains here and there's a lot of mistakes, but that dude is for real. Nobody is coming away from this year with that opinion of Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson. Not nobody. There are people out there who are like, oh, I've seen everything I need to see about, you know what I mean? But
I'm sick of hearing the Peyton Manning first season.
But generally
he did
speaking,
a lot of good stuff that year too.
Generally speaking, this is very different from the Peyton Manning season, where the almost universal opinion of Manning after that year was, this guy, they got it right. You know what I mean? This guy's legit, even if we just had a bunch of bad plays. We're not hearing that from Zach Wilson or Trevor Lawrence. There is not the prevailing wisdom that, these guys are legit. We're seeing some bad play. It's we're not seeing good much at all.
The one thing I'll say that could be encouraging is they're both playing slow. And that's not encouraging other than we've seen that get better.
That does improve.
We've seen players process a little bit quicker. I'm still concerned about the stylistically Zach Wilson. So just, I don't want to spend the whole day on this game, but really quick. Average time to throw for Zach Wilson, 2.9. That's on the really high end. Average depth of target was under 6. So again, you usually have that with a further downfield passing attack. Trevor Lawrence was about double that, 12, almost 12 ADOT, and he was a little over 3 time to throw. So that matches up well. The Wilson mismatch between holding the ball forever and not throwing the ball down the field, that's a little bit more concerning to me.
That's legitimately concerning.
Whereas with Lawrence, it's like, yeah, he's holding the ball because they've got longer developing plays, and Laquan Treadwell's one of the guys running routes. So you can kind of get that. Both situations are bad for both quarterbacks too. So let's not completely overreact.
I'm not writing them off. I'm not saying neither one of these guys has a future and they won't be good in the future. I'm just saying that if all you had as evidence was their rookie tape, you would not think those guys are good players at all, even understanding it's a bad situation. We just talked about Davis Mills heaving it to Chris Conley, and Philip Dorsett was dropping dimes on the Chargers defense all day. Where is that from these two guys? That Trevor Lawrence was facing the Jets.
You don't have the high points. You do not have the high points to even be encouraged.
Literally, this game was the game that each one of them should have shown a bunch of plays. You're like, oh, yeah, that's legit. Whereas what we actually have is Zach Wilson weaving his way through a bunch of incompetence on defense and heaving the ball at an offensive lineman in the end zone. We're not seeing the Davis Mills high points.
No, we're not. Did not believe we'd be saying that.
Yes, we're not seeing the upside of Davis Mills. This is the situation with these two.
All right, you've got 2 minutes on this one. Atlanta Falcons 20, Detroit Lions 16.
I don't even have 2 minutes worth.
The Lions are playing hard defensively.
I'm just saying, if your Christmas wish wasn't for a Tim Boyle 2-minute drive game-winning opportunity, I don't know what you were doing this Christmas. But we got it. Santa delivered, and Tim Boyle subsequently delivered the ball to the Falcons.
Olakun with the game-ending interception. This is the first game to end in the 1 o'clock slate. That's what I know about it.
God bless them.
It ended quickly. This is another one of those games where I thought like Matt Ryan, he's not showing that upside right now. He should be torching this Detroit defense, right? Putting up a lot of points, fantasy points at least. Kyle Pitts leads the game with 102 yards through the air. I don't know. There's not a whole lot here. Falcons win 20-16, and they're still technically alive at 7-8.
They are still technically alive.
Tim Boyle was okay until he threw the game away.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this wasn't much worse than Jared Goff would have done.
Oh, come on. Goff would have been better.
Would he?
Yeah.
It's like the same game as Goff's had all season long.
The great Craig Reynolds gets held to 29 yards on 11 carries, too.
Despite the tattoo.
Yeah, and if you were riding Reynolds into the fantasy playoffs, thinking he's hot right now,
rough week for you,
which we had been saying, we had been really highlighting on this show. Craig Reynolds could be the guy. He was not.
Kyle Pitts not only leads the game for the Falcons in receiving yards, all those kinds of things. He's just starting to set records now in terms of all-time rookie, quote unquote, tight end numbers. You know what I mean?
Do we do that? Do we need to do that?
Yes.
We got to call him a tight end.
I mean, they're calling him a tight end.
Okay, fine.
And people are like, oh, it's not like Tony Gonzalez was like a blocking monster. No, but he lined up in line every play. Certainly until late in his career.
They asked him to do tight end stuff.
Yeah, late in his career, the Falcons were splitting him out in the slot the whole time, and that's what he became. But Tony Gonzalez was a legitimate tight end for his career. Kyle Pitts isn't. He is playing wide receiver for 3/4 of his snaps at the moment, which is not a criticism. It's just this is the descriptor of the player we're talking about here. What else did I have in this?
Matt Ryan did have 2 dimes, by the way. One to Pitts down the sideline, one to Hayden Hurst on the wheel route for the touchdown. Nice, pretty efficient game for Ryan.
Quietly, and this is something I think we predicted at one point or other. The Lions, who invested not one jot in receiver and quarterback and several important parts of the team because they were throwing everything they had at the line of scrimmage. Amon-Ra St. Brown has become a pretty good player for them.
He is, and they've done some cool stuff with him. Line him up in the backfield, they're moving him around, and you can kind of see the future.
Yeah, I think only Jalen Waddle has more targets and receptions and those kinds of things amongst rookie receivers. Remember, this is a good rookie class. He's been moved around the formation. He's shown that he can make some plays. I mean, he's definitely put his hand up in terms of, they basically had so much opportunity for somebody to show something this year at receiver. Okay, you're going to be working with Jared Goff, and the offense probably won't be good, but there was opportunity here for somebody to have a ton of targets and make some plays. And Amon-Ra St. Brown has made some plays and said, yeah, I'm part of your receiving core going forward.
I want to add some more optimism for the Lions.
Okay.
Jonah Jackson, starting guard, another guy that played all last year, wasn't great. He's been a little bit better this year, but he's played a lot better in recent weeks. Looked like an excellent pass protector coming out of Ohio State. A bunch of grades in the red early this season, but he's been really good from a pass protection standpoint in recent weeks. That was the other thing that we predicted. I do think this line, this offensive line is going to be a strength in the coming years with Penei Sewell, and when Frank Ragnow gets back, and if Jonah Jackson can, he's about ready. Is he like at that point for offensive linemen to get better? So optimism in Detroit in certain positions, but not enough in this one. Falcons win 20-16, and again, they're still alive at 7-8,
technically alive,
which puts them, where did they go? They're 10th, just behind the Vikings, who are also 7-8. Let's go. Tampa Bay 32, Carolina Panthers 6. Bucs bounce back from their Sunday night horrible effort against the New Orleans Saints. Bucs move to 11-4. So they're battling the Rams and the Cowboys and the whole tiebreak situation for the 2, 3, and 4 seeds. Panthers fall to 5-10. They were once 3-0. This very season, they were 3-0.
And thought they were a playoff team, making moves like Gilmore. Like they were making moves as if they were, we got to stop the skid. We are a playoff side. We got to reinforce, bolster the team. They are actually doing the 2-quarterback thing.
The legit 2-quarterback system.
And it couldn't be more of a catastrophe.
Cam Newton gets the official start. And then Sam Darnold comes in. Sam Darnold's first play, 63-yarder on a scramble, so that was good.
But did you see the play? It was I know
it was a bust. I know it was completely busted.
It was like a panic, the pocket's collapsing. Run! Runs in right, and then just heaves the ball to a wide open dude in a coverage bust.
I would argue he was a playmaker. He created a play.
But and that accounts for a third of his yards in this game. What is this? And then you get to the post-game press conference, and Matt Rule's like, look, this is working. I mean, it's 1,000% working. I'm just sorry you can't see it because...
Talking about his process, their process,
beautiful.
And the whole thing.
Yeah. Look, the Panthers might be moving in the right direction in several different ways. The ways they haven't been moving in the right direction, I think, are A, quite important, i.e., who is your quarterback? And the only options you currently have are A, very bad, and B, quite expensive when you consider what you picked up in terms of Sam Darnold's fifth-year option. So that's an issue. Your offense has also been going badly enough that you fired the guy that was supposed to be the brains of the operation. Like Joe Brady got kicked to the curb as the scapegoat here. So at the very minimum, you should probably be aware that it doesn't look good from the outside, right? And this is... my biggest problem with the Matt Nagy thing was every time he opened his mouth, he said something really silly and made him look ridiculous. I mean, Matt Rule we're heading in that direction here. That's all I'm saying.
The other thing the Panthers aren't doing well is picking up any sort of stunt or twist on the offensive line.
Well, that's because their offensive line is terrible.
Yeah. 7 sacks across both quarterbacks, Sam Darnold and Cam Newton. So that wasn't great. Offensively for the Bucs, a lot more like what they had been previously, other than Keyshawn Vaughn, the guy that gets things started with a 55-yard run. Keyshawn Vaughn and Ronald Jones replacing Leonard Fournette in this game. And then offensively, Antonio Brown makes his return. He's targeted 15 times out of Tom Brady's 30 attempts. So AB was the target early and often in this one. They connected a bunch. And then Cyril Grayson, the other guy that kind of jumped Scotty Miller. He comes off the practice squad, jumps Scotty Miller as the speed receiver, and they featured him a bunch on end arounds and short stuff. He got behind the defense for a 62-yarder as well. So Brady had mentioned before the game it's going to look different offensively without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin, and overall a pretty good start for the Bucs offense. Not dominant by any means, but a good, efficient 32-6 win.
Yeah, I think I said this last week that with Chris Godwin going down, I think that Antonio Brown is key to this offense going forward. If they've gone from oh, the depth is incredible. They're so impressive. They can beat you with 4, 5, 6 different guys, to if Antonio Brown goes missing at any point, you actually have some real problems here. So I think going forward and into the playoffs, which is obviously the most important thing for Tampa Bay, like Antonio Brown is the key to this offense now. And if he gets hurt, which has happened this year, or if he gets in trouble, which has happened this year, if either one of those things causes him to miss games, this offense may well completely fall apart.
Mike Evans will be back at some point, but you could see Antonio Brown's impact. They put him outside. I mean, he only had 10 yards per catch, but you could just see like the deep speed, running deep outs, slants, and just keeping the cornerback cognizant of the big playability that Brown showed throughout his career, but also early in the season for the Bucs offense was pretty key here. Brady threw the ball pretty well overall. Put one on Gronk in the end zone that got dropped. Gronk was only targeted 2 times in this game, but Bucs take care of business. And then you've got the top of the NFC. Again, it's a 3-way tie, 11-4. Dallas Cowboys, Los Angeles Rams, and Tampa Bay Bucs. As of now, Cowboys and Rams have the tiebreaker because of conference game stuff, and then it defers to head-to-head, whatever it is. But as of now, the Bucs are the number 4 seed. And if the playoffs started today, they'd be hosting the Arizona Cardinals in a wild card game. So still a lot to unpack there in the NFC with 4 teams with 11 or more wins. And Panthers, we'll have a lot to say about them this offseason in rebuild mode. But it is a legitimate 2-quarterback system, and it's really like, who's the next quarterback? Whoever, like, they're just both playing horribly.
They are,
and that's why it's a 2-quarterback system.
They are the walking embodiment of that cliche that said, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any. Like, that's the 2
quarterbacks. This isn't like 2-quarterback system, which is cool,
right? Which
is let's play to everybody's strengths. It's like, who's not bad right now?
And the answer is nobody, right? This is we have no good quarterback, so let's try 2 of them at once and see if that's better than either one of them. And the answer is no, it's not. It's the same.
If you're into the QB record stuff, though, they put up a graphic in this game that said, hey, everybody's losing record. PJ Walker, 2-0. 2-0 as a starter. I didn't know that.
I neither knew nor cared.
No, nor should you. Is that all the only other 1 o'clock game is Giants-Eagles. Another game that was kind of slow to start. Eagles pull away because Jake Fromm went 6 of 17 for 25 yards and a pick for the Giants. That was
horrendous.
That was enough to get Mike Glennon back into the game, averaging, yikes. Mike Glennon led the Giants, averaging 3.4 yards per attempt.
Yeah.
Which was better than Fromm's 1.5.
Yes.
1.5 which was also better than Barkley's 2.1 yards per carry. Oh, gosh.
1.5 yards per attempt is quite hard to do.
It is. They slowed the Eagles' rushing attack a lot, for the most part, though. Miles Sanders comes out with a potential broken hand, I believe. He had 45 yards on his 7 carries. Jalen Hurts continues to do just enough, making a couple nice throws in here as well.
Just enough. It's like the progress is kind of stalled. Like he started
he was great last week against the, depleted Washington team.
Yeah. The COVID football team, as they were called in that game. Hurts, I think, exceeded expectations generally this year and certainly earlier in the season. And then, you're like, oh, this is actually timed reasonably well for Philadelphia because they've assembled all this draft capital and there aren't really other quarterbacks in the draft, and maybe they build around Jalen Hurts while he's cheap. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that works, but you would like to see him still keep getting better, Like, this was a good jump from last year, but let's not plateau here. Let's show there's an upside to still reach. And particularly for a quarterback of like Hurts' style, which is, unconventional, leaning on your athleticism, tools kind of guy. Like, there are types of plays that you need to be making better than other quarterbacks, right? And if you're going to do things like he did, he had a turnover-worthy play here that was kind of ridiculous early in the game, where he pretty much bounced from a clean pocket. Like, it was muddying, but only because he was running around into pressure. So it kind of created a problem in the pocket, which he then extricated himself out of by leaving the pocket, running into right field, getting chased down by a linebacker who was spying him. And then you do that thing where you find the guy to deliver the pass to along the sideline, only that dude was getting blanketed by a defensive back, and you basically threw the ball right to the corner.
Yeah, that was poor.
It's like you can't do that if you're Jalen Hurts. You just can't. You do not have that margin for error if you're going to play like Jalen Hurts. You're not consistent enough on a down-to-down basis to have that mistake in your game tape. Like, everybody makes mistakes, and he'll make some as well elsewhere. You can't have that one. Like, that's the play where if you're not going to make the play from the pocket to begin with, okay, fine. But once you bounce out and you get into open space, you've got to make the play then. And he didn't do it in either scenario, and actually almost, not only did he not make the play, but almost threw it away completely.
Honestly, both of those, the second turnover worthy play was similar. He's got a clean pocket, doesn't really throw it on time, but he steps up and gets strip sack late.
Right. It's like you can't make those plays. You have to get rid of those from your game. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck at this level of, like, these are the plays that are going to cause a team to move on from you.
The touchdown pass to Devontae Smith was pretty sweet. You also got was that Lane Johnson touchdown as well?
Yes, it was.
Love a good old lineman touchdown.
That was one of the weirdest sequences I've ever seen. They gave a touchdown, and then they went, okay, let's review that. And then they went, on further review, it's not a touchdown. And then they kind of changed their mind. And they went, actually, we're going to review it again. Touchdown's good. Or what?
That counts as a touchdown.
What just happened?
The sequence we talked about after the game, they asked Jalen Hurts, why'd you miss wide open Dallas Goedert? He gave, as everybody said, a very thoughtful answer. They thought we were going to get cover 7. We got quarters. Got to go for the one-on-one. Long story short, the read took me somewhere else.
Yes.
It's good answer.
Which is, generally speaking, going to be the answer anytime you see that. Like, guy busts wide open, and, oh, look, this idiot quarterback didn't see him. Yeah, I mean, he didn't see him because there was a read and there's a sequence that took him somewhere else, not because he's just a moron who didn't see the guy in the different colored jersey to every other defender over there in acres of space. Like, this is how the world works.
Not a moron. The Eagles moved to 8-7. They are now the 7th seed in the NFC. They're at Washington, and then they play Dallas, the last game of the season. The Dallas game almost certainly will mean something for the Cowboys. The Cowboys, like I said, they're in that 3-way battle for the number 2 seed. So I think the Cowboys in week 18 are going to have to win. So I don't think the Eagles are going to have the Cowboys backups, so to speak. But Eagles can easily beat Washington once again this week. We would expect that. And then it looks like it's going to be a showdown with the Cowboys fighting for seeding and the Eagles fighting for presumably their playoff lives unless everybody else just loses in the NFC. So pretty good finish here for the Eagles. My early season predictions were all over the place for the Eagles, but I think I pictured a world where Jalen Hurts does this and the running game gets better. It started a little slower, but the Eagles are there right now in the playoff picture. So 34-10 win against the Giants. Today's PFF NFL Daily, if you're a Giants fan and you want more on the Giants, we talk about Daniel Jones and Joe Judge coming back. So that's today's daily, and there's your Giants analysis because I just can't do anything else with this 2.7 yards per attempt as a team.
Yeah. There's not much to do with
for
that.
44 for 118 yards.
It's bad.
By Giants quarterbacks.
Very bad.
Good job, Eagles defense.
Good
job.
The other thing, I believe that every great offensive line performance over a period of time should be rewarded with a schemed-up touchdown. So Lane Johnson got his in this game. They owe Mailata one, right? Trent Williams deserves about 4. Okay, they tried to get him one. He was blanketed by a linebacker at the time. Miles Jack, I think, was all over him.
Trent's getting old. He doesn't separate the way he used to.
I know. So Trent didn't get his. They tried. But every great offensive lineman. Remember Evan Mathis back in the day had this, like, he was trying to convince the coaches to, like, let him play defensive line one day for a sack. Like, that was his thing. He wanted a sack.
Rudy.
Never got it. Never got given the opportunity. I think all great offensive line performances, we should scheme them up something. Keep them interested.
I'm in.
You know, Mike Golick Jr. and those guys, they love a good thick 6. That's the term.
Thick 6.
We need to start rewarding the big fellas.
I'm all for that. Good. Connor McDermott even got one. Not rewarded, but
right.
he got one.
That's what I'm saying. If you can dial up one for Connor McDermott, can't we get, the superstar lineman some plays?
He's more of just like a size mismatch, Let's go to the Snow Bowl here. Bears win, man. Bears win in Seattle. Oh, man. Is this the end? Every week. Is this the end of the Wilson-Carroll era? Bears win 25-24 on a walk-off. Almost a walk-off. But they get the go-ahead score, go up by 1 on the 2-point conversion here, and then
They did.
Seattle still had
one
time.
of those finally worked out.
Yeah.
The go for 2 to win the game then and there. Okay,
then they had to make a stop.
Yeah, as you say, they still had time. But like finally, one of those go for 2 to win it actually resulted in a win.
And this is one of those. I know it's snowing and all that stuff or whatever, but Russ threw the ball. Like I don't think the snow affected the throwing of the football in this particular game. But this was like you've seen it a million times. Russell Wilson leads the game-winning comeback, and kind of he scrambles on second down. There's a holding penalty that slows him down, and then that was pretty much all she wrote. Bears thwarted the comeback attempt. Impressive win by the Bears.
Do you understand what they're doing with DK Metcalf?
No, I told you that. I don't.
Early in the game, so the Bears last week. Was it last week against the Vikings where they had the entire secondary missing, and the one guy that like stood out from that was Thomas Graham Jr. Plays really well. Started again in this game, and then like one-on-one with DK Metcalf. Metcalf just runs the hell by him. Russell Wilson drops in a dime touchdown. You're like, oh look, the bomb to DK Metcalf against single coverage on the outside still works. Why is that not like a 2 times a quarter thing? Like what are we doing? And then, so DK gets the bomb early in the game, touchdown, boom, everything's cooking. Dude had 4 total targets in the game.
No, I can't do it.
What's happening?
To me, it's malpractice to not be feeding DK Metcalf. What I've seen this year is instead of saying I have DK Metcalf, it's I have an X receiver or I have a Z receiver. And so the difference is the X receiver usually runs more vertical routes. Z receiver runs more underneath stuff. They put in motion. It feels like they just kind of put DK Metcalf into an offense. And he's running a lot of more Z receiver type of stuff. Not exclusively, but he's like the first play of the game, the 41-yard touchdown that you mentioned, Russ drops a dime, and that's where DK wins. There should be 3 or 4 of those shots per game.
It's also where Russ wins. Like that's where he's best at.
Here's what I want to study, because this is what I'm feeling watching this Seattle offense. Russ had 2 big-time throws in the game, both touchdowns. Drops a diamond to DK Metcalf, Gerald Everett on the corner route, I believe it was. That accounted for 77 of Russell's 181 passing yards, those 2 throws, right? What I've been feeling this entire season, even when Wilson was playing better earlier in the year, is that it is just too big play driven. And that is, we have a history of Russell Wilson making all these plays, right? Like down the field. Like he's always had those as part of his game, but everything in between that is just really bad for the Seattle offense. They are not creating offense unless Russell Wilson throws a dime. And he's not throwing enough of them this year as it is. And that's just a massive issue. It is a massive issue with this offense right now. For whatever reason, it's just not clicking. And I don't think Wilson's playing as well. But he had been in this offense that did rely on those big throws, but there was a lot more intermediate stuff. It just flowed a lot better for Russell Wilson. And I don't want to contradict myself because I do that a lot, but coming into the season, I did think that there needed to be an offense where the short stuff was a bigger part of it, right? You needed more answers for when you play the Rams and they take away the bomb, right? When they take those away. It feels like it's almost gotten too conservative, and then every now and again you get the deep pass in there and you create a chunk play. It's just disjointed between Russell Wilson, Shane Waldron, this offense, and the DK Metcalf usage within this offense. Does that all make sense?
Yeah. All of a sudden, Rashad Penny looks like San Diego State Rashad Penny.
And Penny looks great. I mean, look, you got your first-round running back playing like a first-round running back, and you still can't win games.
Man's built for a snow game, though.
Yeah. He's like A.J. Dillon West.
Yeah. Well, with less thigh and more, just overall meat.
Pete Carroll has his Eddie Lacy.
Yeah. The man's he's packing some, winter insulation. Let's put it that way.
Look, if we're gonna,
and he's not alone.
If you are gonna have people in your mentions, saying, "How about Davis Mills now? How about that take?" I'm gonna let it's time for your rebuttal, right? We have a hidden video. It's still in here somewhere.
Oh, that might be right. All of a sudden,
we have a video that has not seen the light of day.
Yeah.
That you were just waiting for the right time.
Right.
And we're 4 years.
Just dropped in the middle of that game.
We're 4 years in right now. And this video might be of you declaring.
It's finally coming true.
Rashad Penny's going to be better than Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
That was what you declared. And it was like, hey, let's record this just to be, and we'll bring it out at the right time. And perhaps week 16 of the 2021 season is the right time. As Rashad Penny goes 17 carries for 135 yards and a score.
95 after contact.
95 after
Seven
contact.
broken tackles.
7 broken tackles.
Second 100-yard game in, 3-4 games?
And Barkley's over there, 15 for 32.
I mean,
long of 7.
On the live show, Ian Hartitz was saying, I'm so bummed out because until they say I can't tell the difference between Saquon Barkley and Devontae Booker when they rotate them in the offense. Like, there's no discernible, like, oh, yeah, that guy's the superstar. Yeah, all of a sudden, Rashad Penny looks like college Rashad Penny again.
And you can tell the difference between Rashad Penny and DJ Dallas.
Yeah, you can.
DJ Dallas isn't running for $135. So you nailed it.
I'm just saying, 4 guys had carries for the Seattle Seahawks yesterday. 3 of them had grades in the 60s, and Rashad Penny had a grade of 90.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Now, okay, one of them was Eskridge on an end around. One of them was Russell Wilson. In a
yeah,
scramble,
whatever. Don't worry about it. It's
these are details.
It's all Rashad Penny here. I made a mistake a couple weeks ago,
Really?
by the way. Another mistake.
Wow.
I called Nick Mullins the best third-string quarterback
You did.
in the NFL.
To be fair, we immediately refuted it with like 5 other guys that were clearly better.
One of which is Nick Foles. I forgot.
I see.
Third stringer Nick Foles. The dude's just been sitting on the bench. I mean, he'd be a better backup than probably 20 guys around the league right now. Nick Foles. More than Nick Foles data points here, Sam. One of which is get him on the edge for a 2-point conversion. Get him out there.
Really, though, the Nick Foles thing is all about, like, I mean, he'll probably be terrible when we put him in. But if we can just get that one, if we can just get the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl Foles, like if we can find that, if we can catch lightning in a bottle for the couple of games we need him, now we're good. But, like, Nick Foles' baseline is probably pretty terrible.
The other part where I was wrong, all my research on sprint outs, the Bears didn't see that. Sprint outs, this is against all odds here. The sprint out, did I even drop this on the Wednesday show?
You did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you missed it.
It's on record. Don't
the
worry.
sprint out from the 2-yard line. Remember, a sprint out is like no play action. It's a designed rollout by the quarterback. And, you throw the ball. It had worked about 29% of the time since 2018. The Bears they picked a play that worked 29% of the time since 2018 from the 2-yard line.
Yeah.
And against all odds, they did it. And you could see why it didn't work. It took Damiere Byrd catching the ball, having it stick in one hand, barely get both feet in or the knee or whatever it was that came down.
Crazy catch.
It was, what an incredible catch. How'd that ball not move? That was awesome by Damiere Byrd. That was really cool. And, wow, Bears pull off the win. Nick Foles, you just can't bet against Nick Foles, man. Never know.
Never.
Classic Nick Foles game. So many passes where he's just getting popped in the chest and just like, where's it going? I don't know where it's going. Getting hit while I throw. That's what I do. I'm Nick Foles.
I'm Nick Foles.
So, we're going to talk a lot this offseason. Is this the end of Russ in Seattle? It's just poor right now. Seahawks moved to 5-10. Their draft pick, I believe, is 7th overall right now, but they don't have it. The Jets do.
What did they get in return?
Jamal Adams. They also didn't have a first-round pick last year.
What did they get in return?
The same Jamal Adams. So there's a lot to talk about Seattle and their rebuild. But the Bears win 25-24. Bears also move to 5-10. And the Bears also don't have a first-round pick, but they at least got Justin Fields.
And they at least damaged the first-round pick that they're giving away by winning.
Yes, there you go. They're dropping the Giants in the draft order there. Let's go Kansas City 36, Pittsburgh 10.
Yes.
Dominant outing for the Kansas City Chiefs. We thought they would be without Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. Turns out Tyreek Hill did make it. He catches 2 passes for 19 yards, but it was the Byron Pringle show with 2 scores, weaving through the defense for touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes back, playing extremely well in this game outside of just a fumble in the pocket where you a little poor ball security there, but other than that, really nice effort from the Chiefs, and the Steelers' offense just could not do anything. Not a thing.
Yeah.
Everything they did was bad. I don't think the Steelers had one good play in this game. I mean, I didn't grade it. I was just watching it.
Didn't have one
I didn't see a good play by the Steelers.
This felt like the Ben Roethlisberger reports are he's been mulling retirement. This will be his final year. Like, if he wasn't set on retirement already, this game pushed him over the edge. Like, just being out there and doing what he was doing and then watching how easy Mahomes makes it look, and you're like, we're not playing the same game. Like, I cannot do anything that he's doing right now. Like, even if you put me in that offense, I could not do any of the things that Patrick Mahomes is currently doing. And if that is the standard for the position that I play in this game, what am I doing here? Like, I don't belong in this game anymore. Like, that game should have given Big Ben everything he needed to know about what his future is in this league, which is to say retirement. You want my metaphor now?
Is it metaphor time? Sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So, I kind of get bummed out watching Najee Harris play, right? Not because Najee Harris isn't good, because I actually think he's really good, but because it's just pointless. Like, they bring in Najee Harris because they didn't have a run game. It's like, so we draft the first-round running back fixed. Well, no, because your offensive line is still bad. You have no passing game. Your quarterback can't do any of the quarterbacking things that you need to have a functional offense. And Najee Harris is essentially just pounding his head into a brick wall every single play. So the metaphor is, what he reminded me of is, in history, in warfare, there have been these something called a forlorn hope, which they had a lot during the Napoleonic Wars, where warfare was sort of becoming technological and mechanized, and you had rifles now instead of just sticks and a bow and arrow and all those kinds of things, and you had big fortified castles. So in order to get into these castles, what you would have to do is like blow a big hole in the wall, and then at some point somebody's going to go through the hole, right, in order for you to have this like beachhead to attack the castle. Whoever's going in the hole first is not coming out of it well, So the attack party that was first through the wall was known as the forlorn hope, which kind of tells you about everything you should expect to happen. Like, their job was basically throw yourself into the kill zone, hope that you survive long enough to establish a beachhead for like the actual people to come in behind you and have some success, right? This is Najee Harris right now. It's just throw yourself into death, because somewhere in the future there will be something better happening behind you, and it's never happening. So there's one line in the Wikipedia for the Forlorn Hope that I think describes it well. While it was likely that most members of the Forlorn Hope would be killed or wounded, the intention was that some would survive long enough to seize a foothold that could be reinforced, or at least that the second wave with better prospects could be sent in while the defenders were reloading or engaged in mopping up the remnants of the first wave. This is Najee Harris's job for the Steelers offense right now. And it bums me out because he deserves better.
Well done. Well done. What does survival look like for Najee? They draft four more offensive linemen. Just get out of this season. Just get out of this year and hope that they fix things around you. Survival is Aaron Rodgers comes to town next year, and they've got they draft 3 offensive linemen. Who are good. An offensive line, a quarterback that can actually throw the ball to receivers and stuff, like just something functional around him. Najee had his highest rushing grade of the year, which was nice. What was it? 78.2. Highest rushing grade. They moved. He had a couple nice runs in there. Yeah. They could not score. Could not do anything. It was bad. They even set up poor Big Ben even on a couple. Poor Big Ben. But it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, Big Ben wasn't great. Just airmails and interception early when they try a trick play, and the Chiefs were playing like a shell coverage waiting for a downfield pass, throws it up into coverage. So then they try one of those the slow developing screens where you fake the handoff, you fake the end around, you set up the screen. Ben didn't even get the second handoff done before he turns around and just gets popped for a fumble. Yeah. And then the Deontay Johnson becomes what? Paddle hands? Is that what you call him? Paddle hands. Once you finally throw an on-target pass, Deontay Johnson's he fumbled without even getting touched. Yep. And then he's dropping the ball. So I'm telling you, the Steelers did not have a good play. Maybe a couple of the Najee runs where he had a 78 grade, but he probably didn't go very far. So, it was another dominant performance. Do you even call it a dominant performance by the Chiefs' defense? I guess. Yeah. The Chiefs' defense is legit, and they're dominating pretty much everybody they run up against. The interesting question is that offense, which it did well, but again, they just haven't been shown the same things that were causing them problems. But what's interesting, I don't think it matters anymore. Like, a lot of what was ailing Kansas City earlier in the year, I think, was a kind of psychological problem, which is
we now believe that when we're put under pressure, we're going to make mistakes because we've been turning the ball over at such a freakish rate of knots that when we're asked to be patient, like we talked about with the Bills earlier, when we have to be patient and execute a 15-play drive, we know we can't do it. We're waiting for the mistake to happen. They're not in that headspace anymore. They're confident again. They expect to make plays even if they have to do it in short increments. So simply by facing a bunch of bad defenses in the Steelers, I think the Chiefs are fixed.
Chiefs are fixed. That's it. Like I said, Byron Pringle stepped up. He takes a slant, makes a guy miss, makes another guy miss, sneaks in the end zone for a touchdown. Mecole Hardman had a nice little run after the catch for a touchdown as well. Mahomes, again, did not miss a ton of throws, put the ball in harm's way just one time, had a couple big-time throws in there as well. So, yeah, the Chiefs look a lot more like we expected them to look. And they did this without Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill caught the first pass of the game, and then not much else was out there. But
him
was
being
not
out there is important.
Him being out there is huge, absolutely. But having the Pringles and the Hardmans of this is what Chiefs fans I think have been frustrated by. Right? Like, Pringle has not been bad during his career. He's shown these flashes and all that stuff. Hardman has shown flashes, but he's been very inconsistent. Like, if they played this type of game and you have Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce out there, that's when the Chiefs become unstoppable. You just haven't had that same level of consistency. Plus, you have Derek Gore making plays down the field in the pass game, out of the backfield. So, unstoppable all around. So the Chiefs, they move to 11-4. They do control the number 1 seed. They're headed for a huge matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals next week.
Yeah.
We've got Chiefs-Bengals next week with all sorts of implications on the line here. But, yeah, the Chiefs, if they win out, they will get the number 1 seed. Titans fans will be watching that game closely because if the Bengals can pull the upset, which is reasonable, which is doable, if the Bengals can pull the upset, the Titans can win out and become the number 1 seed. So that's what we're looking at there. And for all of the disappointment that Pittsburgh should have watching this game, Pittsburgh still controls their own playoff destiny.
Pittsburgh can still win the division.
They can win the division if they win the next 2 games.
If they win out and Cincinnati loses out, Pittsburgh can win the AFC North.
Yeah, and either way they can get into the playoffs by winning these next 2. So the 7-7-1 Steelers, what do they have, the Browns and Ravens left?
Yeah, I think so.
Right, Browns and Ravens left these last couple weeks. Steelers still lurking. And Mike Tomlin, what's his record?
Has yet to have a losing record.
He's going to finish 8-8.
He's got one game. He needs 1 win left to avoid the losing record again.
8-8-1 for the Steelers. It's coming.
Which, given everything we've just been talking about with Pittsburgh and what's wrong with them, genuinely would be a phenomenal achievement for Tomlin.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it would be.
This team should be horrendous, and it isn't, largely because of Tomlin.
He's keeping them all together. Las Vegas Raiders 17, Broncos 13. Drew Lock gets the start for the Broncos. They could not convert on 3rd down. Derek Carr, what kind of injury? He got tugged. What was his left arm injury? He looked like he was banged up after he got hit on one play. He put the ball in harm's way a couple times, but threw the ball pretty well, 20 of 25 for 201 yards. And big win for the Raiders. They moved to 8-7, and of course they're in the mix like everyone else.
Great stat coming out of this game. Andrew Mason tweeted this. Since week 17 of last year, NFL teams are 35-4-1 with turnover margins of +3 or better. Denver is responsible for 2 of the 4 losses.
Wow. That's what it did. My perception of games sometimes is when you're taking in all the action. And it did feel like every time I looked up, Derek Carr was fumbling, and there was a turnover coming from the Raiders or a bad interception or whatever it was, but they overcame, obviously. And the Broncos did not take advantage at all, as you mentioned. 2 out of the 4 losses in those situations?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. So obviously it was a huge game. Both teams were 8-7 coming in. The Raiders moved to the number 9 seed, tied with the 2 other teams at 8-7, the Ravens and the Chargers.
Drew Lock had like a peak Teddy game, and it still didn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't have the crazy Wheel of Fortune, spin the wheel and see what happens in this throw game that everybody was expecting him to have.
Maybe they should have.
Like the fun, crazy, bad.
Should have been more aggressive.
He went out there. He was generally speaking accurate and efficient and had a couple of nice throws and didn't have any big mistakes, and it didn't matter.
His best throw probably to Cortland Sutton, deep crosser, early in the first quarter. Sutton couldn't keep his feet in bounds, right? That was one of the big-time throws in there from Locke. So he had this game against New England last year. He also kind of back-shouldered a corner route, which was right, like to back-shoulder it away from the leverage of the defender. And neither one of those good throws showed up on the stat sheet. That was the game Drew Lock had against New England last year. We had like 5 big-time throws and only one of them was complete. So sometimes the nice plays don't pan out a whole lot.
The question for them and him, and what's unfortunate is you don't really have time to work this out anymore, is like, can this game only exist because you basically went, Drew, don't screw it up. Don't do anything stupid. You know, be efficient, channel Teddy Bridgewater. Be Teddy. Teddy can't play, so you be Teddy. Go out there, don't screw it up, and then we win this game. Or can you get this, where he doesn't make the mistakes, you make a couple of big-time throws, and you say, now just push it a little bit, dial it up a little bit more, be a little bit more aggressive, and if we can get just a slightly higher baseline and you still don't make mistakes, now we have a quarterback.
I think it was more they just didn't capitalize when he made those plays, right? And then
but even then, like, even if you give him those 2 plays, you're adding, 50, 75 yards onto a stat sheet. So now you're talking like...
Yeah, but then you're 18 for 24 for like 220 or whatever.
Right, which is probably the difference between winning or losing, but you're not coming out of this game being like, oh, Drew Lock's the truth. He's the future. Like, you're saying, okay, this was a nice, efficient... This was a Teddy Bridgewater plus, But what we're looking for here is the next step. We're looking for the guy that's better than that, not just the guy... We already have the guy that can do that. Teddy Bridgewater can do that. We've seen that a lot. The question is, can you do more than that? And that's the open question is, can you, in addition to the things that Teddy does, add on top of that and bring more?
I think the bigger issue is the Broncos' run game, though. This 2-headed monster of Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. I mean, they combined for 8 yards. And so they could do this math. They combined for 8 yards. Javonte Williams had 12 of them. Yeah. So Melvin, 7 carries for -4.
Well, also, so they had 8 yards, but they had 22 yards after contact.
Yeah. Not great.
No.
Not great.
Melvin Gordon had 7 carries for -4 yards.
That's what I'm saying.
But he had 5 yards after contact.
Did what he could. He did what he could. Raiders just won up front, man. They won up front in the run game. Josh Jacobs had a nice game, 27 carries for 129. So they moved the ball a lot better on the ground than they had in the past for Vegas. And look, they won. Raiders win with the underneath game and the conservative Derek Carr still averaging under 7 yards per target. But
yeah, and remember, like, he's doing this without all of his good receivers. Like, the dude still doesn't have Darren Waller.
He's just missing Darren Waller.
He's missing that, yeah, but like
Edwards.
But in missing Darren Waller, having already sent Henry Ruggs packing, your best receivers are Hunter Renfrow and Zay Jones and Foster Moreau. Like, this is who he's getting it done with.
So, 8-7 Raiders still lurking for the Broncos. This drops them to number 13 in the AFC. All but knocks them out, right, of the playoff picture here. They're still technically in the mix. Anything can happen. But they're 13th.
Somebody's draft pick is going to jump like 15 spots off the base of losing in Week 18.
The AFC is fascinating. So the Browns and Broncos are tied at 12 and 13 seeding. The 14th and 15th seeds are the Jets and Texans at 4 and 11. So it's 4 and 11, and then the teams right above them are 7 and 8. Like, there's just no 5 and 6 win teams in the AFC right now. And let's wrap it up with Sunday Night Football.
Oh, boy.
That's it, right? Did I miss anything? The football team, 14. Of course, Dallas had 56.
Yeah.
It was 56-7 at one point. Dallas getting pick sixes and fumble returns for touchdown, blocked punts for touchdown, Dominant outing by the Dallas Cowboys. And Dak was back for the first time in a while.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't think you can say that the Dallas Cowboys offense is in a slump anymore. And you're right. I mean,
well, no, not after you put up
not
56
now.
points.
But they were in a slump.
It would, in fact, be a very silly thing to say after the back of 56 points.
Chris called me this week asking about Dak, and he was watching his mechanics. Everything he was talking about on the show last night about back foot coming up and this and that did look better. I really thought Dak was in a slump. Not so much throwing the ball, but seeing the field. I mean, he still forced a couple in this one, but boy, some big-time throws and zipping it in there. And the Dallas offense showing the explosiveness that they are always capable of. Yeah.
Them, if they are back to this degree, they become arguably as good as any team in the NFL again. It was always a double-edged sword in terms of how you read it, right? On the one hand, if you want to take the pessimistic view, the biggest problem with the Dallas Cowboys over the past few weeks has been the most important player they have is playing badly to the point where he's throwing the ball to the defense multiple times a game, inviting turnovers, causing games to be closer than they should. And while that's not necessarily a big deal against Washington, it's probably a big deal against Green Bay in the NFC Championship game, or other Tampa Bay, same thing, right? When you get to the crunch games in January, that's going to be a problem. On the other hand, you're like, well, literally one thing needs to change for this team to be the best team in the NFL, which is Dak Prescott to go back to playing how he was playing earlier in the year. If you're of the optimistic view. Now, that just happened.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Dak Prescott looked like the Dak Prescott earlier in the year. And if that guy is here to stay, now you go back to saying, well, this offense is basically unstoppable. You've got receiving weapons everywhere. You've got Dak who can deliver the pass, make plays with his legs. You've got a run game that's dominant with a great offensive line. And you've got a defense that can't stop forcing turnovers and causing problems up front with all their pass rushers.
It started with the first pass right to Trayvon Diggs.
I don't understand. You can still test Trayvon Diggs, right? They pulled up a graphic at some point on Sunday Night Football where they sort of tried to explain. They explained his PFF grade without mentioning his PFF grade. You know what I mean? It's boom or bust for Trayvon Diggs. He's either picking you off or he's giving up a ton of yards. And, he got beaten by De'Ami Brown later in the game, right? The perfect example. Brown just beat him on that play, and it was a big completion over Trayvon Diggs. So you can definitely target Trayvon Diggs and beat him. You can't throw the ball that Heineke threw. Everyone was like, oh, Diggs ran the route like the receiver. It's like, yeah, he also had the target like he was the receiver. The ball was thrown to his leverage.
Yeah.
It was a target that was possible, but not anywhere near where that ball was thrown. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, he ran a better route than Terry McLaurin did. Well, yes, but partly because the ball was basically thrown to him as opposed to Terry McLaurin, which certainly helped. He did a great job on that play. He has great hands, which makes those plays dangerous. But that was ridiculous ball location.
Yeah. Diggs has been, even the grade's been better in recent weeks overall.
Yeah.
He's making a ton of plays on the ball. Obviously, 11 interceptions is nuts. And then up front, you're starting to see you have DeMarcus Lawrence picking off a pass, like a young Tony Brackens, picking off a pass. It's not a batted pass, just picks it off, catches it, and runs it back for a touchdown. Incredible play. You have Micah Parsons. So now with Randy Gregory and DeMarcus Lawrence out there, now you could have Micah Parsons say, hey, target on you, Eric Flowers. I'm going to just line up over you. I'm going to rush over the guard for a sack. Man, Dallas is dangerous defensively.
Yeah.
And now they're dangerous offensively.
Yes.
And here's what I love about the NFC and their playoff picture here. Chris was already kind of hinting at it. Are we going to see Aaron Rodgers and the Packers face the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy? Great storyline there. But a lot of these top teams haven't actually played each other. We haven't seen Packers Cowboys. We haven't seen Packers Bucs. We haven't seen the Cowboys play the Rams or the Cardinals or the Packers. There's a lot of these top 4 or 5 teams in the NFC. We actually haven't seen these matchups yet, and they're all winning. They all have 10+ wins. It's going to be awesome in the NFC.
And as much as Green Bay looks like they've not locked it up, but Green Bay is certainly the favorite now for that number 1 seed and the playoffs going through Lambeau. They are a team that the betting market is a lot cooler on than the hype, right? Or the fact that they have the best record or that they're going to have that number one seed. And part of it is because, they haven't played teams like Tampa Bay or Dallas. Remember when they played Arizona, they are an A.J. Green, looking for the ball away from losing that game. And they haven't been covering the spreads in recent weeks. And they've had games like that Cleveland game where they just stopped scoring and all of a sudden.
Don't channel Eric.
I'm not. So what I'm saying is that all of a sudden, there's a reason that the betting market is cooler on the Packers than everybody else. And as much as they are going to get this huge boost, potentially, of the playoffs having to go through their building, that they might need it because they're going to face a bunch of teams that are better than the teams they've been beating so far.
Yeah, and look, I think this is it's going to be really fun when it comes to playoff time. The Cowboys still have a shot at that number one seed.
Right.
I don't know what the tiebreaker will look like between them and the Packers, but if you're a Dallas fan, you're rooting for them to the Packers to lose against the Vikings in particular this coming week. Not so much the Lions in Week 17. I don't think the Lions have that in them. I think Dan Campbell has it in him. Week 18, I mean.
Who knows?
Maybe.
In this year.
A couple more espresso shots.
True wisdom lies in knowing you know nothing.
After 2 hours and 20 minutes, we know nothing. Just remember, we know nothing.
The good thing is neither does anybody else.
True. Can't go anywhere else to get lack of knowledge like
who wins the fight if Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne get released, to go at each other?
Oh, I think it's Allen, right?
Allen wins the fight?
Yeah. He's more explosive.
It feels like it's like a heavyweight UFC contest, right? Where whoever connects, that's it, right? It's over in one punch.
Yeah. So it's about defense.
So if Allen,
who's
what
the
I'm saying
defensive
is,
player?
If Allen connects on that first shot, it's over right there. He just walks off.
A couple Bama teammates and football team teammates here.
Yeah. History.
And he said, look, brothers fight.
I can't remember who was tweeting it, but it was I love the implication that there's something that
after.
Something that Daron Payne said 8 years ago that's just been gnawing at Allen for
I like that.
Now I finally had enough.
They were freshmen together,
right.
And it's I've been waiting for this moment here.
They took his sweets 8 years ago, and it's just been gnawing at him for the last decade, and now he's finally snapped.
Brothers fight, man. It happens. Football team falls to 6-9, but don't lose hope, football team fans. Still alive. Still alive. Right? Yes.
Sure.
Number 11 seed. Panthers and lower. They're all eliminated. Panthers, Bears, Seahawks, Giants, and Lions. You're all eliminated. Go to PFF.com for our draft coverage.
And the mock draft sim.
And the mock draft simulator. If you're in the AFC, Jets, Texans, Jaguars, you're all eliminated. Go to PFF.com for the mock draft sim. Also use the promo code NFLPOD for 25% off any PFF subscription. And, of course, you could still elite up for 50% off. Just PFF Elite using the promo code ELITEUP.
Look at that fancy graphic.
I know. The graphics look great on YouTube here.
They don't look great in the audio version.
Not in the audio. You can just hear us. So anyway, anything else to cover this week?
No.
I had to get in the van. You got to go pack the van, hit the road.
16 hours of minivan.
Yeah, but it might be broken up over 2 days, which is nice. We might break it up. We'll see.
Yeah.
Find a hotel. But then you just get so close. It's just man, do we just grind it out?
Everything about this trip sounds hateful.
But once you get there, it's fun. You get to see my parents, hang out.
Then you got to do it again on the way back.
Usually I pawn that off. Kelly's got a big family, and she's got some great sisters that will drive with her.
I don't know a human being that I would be willing to take that trip with, as a favor. Yeah. Hey, can you help me out here and drive 16 hours with me in a van full of 4 kids? No, I can't.
Oh, by the end of it, her sister looks at me and is just don't even talk to me.
Yeah.
She's very upset.
No, there's nobody I know that I would do that for.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't blame him. I don't blame you. So I got to do it again. Yeah, in a couple of weeks. I do.
Yeah. That doesn't.
But I'll be back. I'll be recording from my parents' basement again, which is cool.
Sound like a good time.
A lot of fun. Anyway, we got to go. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll be back on Wednesday. Might have a special guest on the Wednesday show. Mm-hmm. And then I'll certainly be back on Thursday previewing all the Week 17 action. But enjoy Monday Night Football.
Enjoy it.
First chapter of Ian Book's story here on Monday Night Football. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. See you Wednesday.